and you know the way Leicester will play, except it's going to be more Leicester-like than it was ever before. It is going to be really physical. And once again, I've got to say, referee Tom Foley today is going to be absolutely integral, because there's going to be lots of collisions, there's going to be an awful lot of contact work, there'll be stuff happening on the ground. It's so important he has a good game today. Dave Warder just said he's very keen about Tom Foley referee, the way he referees. Let's hope he has a good game today, Smithy.
I'm sure he'll be absolutely splendid. Leicester come to the northeast with Freddie Stewart at fullback, Harry Potter and Harry Simmons on the wings, Matt Scott and Dan Kelly in the centres. Charlie Atkinson, arrived from Wasps earlier in the year, is at number 10. Vice-captain, or co-vice-captain, Ben Youngs is at scrum half. A front row of James Cronin, Charlie Clare and Dan Cole, invited back into the England squad this week by Steve Borthwick for their meeting over in Manchester, I think it was. Callum Green's in the second row alongside Harry Wells. Callum, former Falcon, of course, makes his 100th appearance for Leicester Tigers this afternoon. Ollie Chesham's on the blind side, Tommy Reffel on the open side, and Hanro Liebenberg is at number 8. Newcastle have Tom Penny captaining them from fullback, Adam Radwan, Matteo Carreras on the wings, Matthias Moroni, Matthias Orlando in the centres, Brett Connon is at 10, Sam Stewart at 9. Front row, Adam Brocklebank, Jimmy Blumeyer, Trevor Davison. Second row, Greg Peterson, Sebastian de Chavez, and the back row of Gary Graham, Callum Chick and Carl Ferns. Our officiating team: referee Tom Foley, assistant referee Jack Makepeace. We can't have 3 assistant referees, can we? Because you can have an extra one on the field when Jack Makepeace is involved, can't you? Jack Makepeace and Wayne Fallow, the assistant referees. Andrew Jackson is the TMO, and the sighting commissioner is Brian Campsell. And they're lining up for a minute's silence, or a minute's applause, or something that I was made not aware of. I haven't got a clue what this is for, to be honest. It's very bad of me.
No, I'm afraid I don't either. So
I'm sure the public address announcer will be letting us know in a moment, but and here we go.
Earlier this week, the Newcastle Falcons were devastated to learn that Lulu Blundell sadly lost her battle with cancer. Lulu was a proud member of staff here at Kingston Park, working in the club shop and ticket office. Following her diagnosis of terminal cancer last year, she helped raise awareness and funds of more than £70,000 for the Teenage Cancer Trust, a charity that she was with and with her every step of the way. Rugby was a big part of Lulu's life, playing for Sheffield RUFC and Wakefield Trinity prior to her diagnosis. All our thoughts and deepest sympathies are with Lulu's family and friends during this incredibly difficult time. And it's at times like this when we truly see the rugby community pull together. So we now ask that you be upstanding, please, and partake in a moment's applause for Lulu, which will start and finish on the referee's whistle. Rest in peace, Lulu.
Well, we're all ready to go now. Leicester are going to be kicking from north to south in those predominantly red shirts, white shorts and black and red socks. There's flashes of green all over that. Newcastle all in black, kicking from south to north, from right to left in front of us as we sit at the back of the West Stand. As I said earlier, this looks like a really even game, doesn't it? On paper.
I think it could be on paper, certainly so. The Falcons will be smarting after last weekend, as will Leicester. So this could be a bit of an arm wrestle at times, Smithy. The physical battle is going to be very important.
Well, Atkinson's going to get the game underway. There are TV cameras here today, so Mr. Foley's just waiting for the man from Del Monte to say yes, and they'll be off. At the moment, it's a beautiful afternoon here on Tyneside. It wasn't this morning when I walked the dogs at 7 o'clock. It was raining heavily, but it's turned into a beautiful day. Ball is in the air from the left foot of Mr. Atkinson, and that's taken in by Sebastian de Chavez. And that was Ollie Chesham that just made sure he didn't hit de Chavez in the air, allowed him to get down to ground. Now he's making a nuisance of himself by trying to get those big hands and arms over the ball as Newcastle rumble forward out of the 22. Blumeyer, in fact it's not Blumeyer, it's Trevor Davison, is just staying far enough back to get away from the arms of Leicester players. Newcastle have driven from inside their own 22 to the 10-metre line. They're 5 metres from the left-hand touch line. Carl Ferns is urging Newcastle players to get on Trevor Davison. Newcastle are being told by the referee they've got to start thinking about using it. With one finger's gone in the air. That ball is on the floor now. Sam Stewart bends into the contact to get hands on it, and he's wanting players to his right hand side. And he's just taken his time, moved on to Carl Ferns. Ferns ducks his left shoulder straight into the chest of Ben Youngs. Ball is on the floor. Sam Stewart again just taking his time, not being rushed. And brings the ball back with his right foot on the 10-metre line, 15 metres from the left-hand touchline. That ball is in the air. Freddie Stewart's underneath it, takes it cleanly, gets away, but is taken down to ground by Matthias Orlando. Ben Youngs gets back to act as scrum half. Ball is out to Atkinson, takes his time with a lovely left-footed kick that's high in the air. It's got Tom Penny, it's Brett Connon coming forward. He's hit as soon as he hits the ground. We're on the ground, and ball is back in the hands of, that's Maroney, that just chips it through.
Oh,
and that's
lucky.
a ball that bounced up. But it wasn't Maroney, that was Orlando, and they were practicing that before the game. The two Argentine centres just kicking the ball along the floor, bouncing end over end, and that just about bounced up into Adam Radwan's hands.
It did, a really unusual play. The little sort of pass kick almost along the ground, Smithy, wasn't it? Just threading that defence, threading it between that defence, and had that ball stood up, well, that could have been really, really interesting.
This is just a perfect winter's afternoon for rugby, isn't
brilliant, isn't it? Absolutely brilliant.
Taken by the Chavez. Well, it bounced on the floor, but he got it back on the first bounce. Up to Orlando, driving into Atkinson. Tries to rip the ball away, but Newcastle have got it. That is now Maroney, who just ducks his shoulder and just runs into big back row. That is Hanro Liebenberg. Sam Stewart moves it to Gary Graham. He had to take that standing still, so he's got a Leicester player around his knees as he brings that ball in, including former colleague Callum Green, playing his 100th game for Leicester Tigers. And that first contact from Orlando, and he's taking his time getting back to his feet. And he seems okay now. The ball's in the air from Stewart, taken by, well, from Sam Stewart, taken by Freddie Stewart, the Leicester Tigers fullback, outside his own 22, 5 metres outside, just to the right-hand side of the line between the two sets of posts. Ben Youngs bringing the ball back. It's in the air from the multiple-capped England scrum half and British Lion. Tom Penny recovers it, hammers it back downfield, taken without bouncing by Freddie Stewart. Heads back towards the 10-metre line. He's around the outside of Tom Penny. That was all just a little bit too easy, to be honest. Put that straight into the hands of Radwan, who returns the compliment with a kick that's bounced infield. Where's it going to go? Radwan's got the gas moving. Atkinson is not getting hands on that ball. Radwan can't quite get hands on Atkinson. Atkinson manages to get away. Radwan tackles him from behind. Atkinson didn't deal with that very well, but Newcastle have got a penalty against Newcastle. Penalty against Newcastle, our referee says. Radwan was flying, the ball was bouncing. Atkinson didn't judge it very well, but Leicester have just managed to get away with it.
They did. I don't know, Newcastle going off the feet, I would imagine. Lovely tap out, a great chase by Radwan. What a fantastic kick.
Who was off the feet there then? Who was off the feet? Well, the angle went away before we could see. And that ball just bounced awkwardly. Radwan gets back to his feet, tackles Atkinson. He goes down to ground. Who's getting there? And what's wrong with that?
It looked all right to me, but
what's wrong with that?
There was, I think it was Radwan got hold of the player's leg and dragged him towards the touchline. I'm not certain if he's been pinged for that, Smithy.
Right, okay. The two players on their feet were fine by the looks of it to me. But, line out to Leicester. Callum Green gets up there. Newcastle have they nicked that?
Disrupted it, certainly.
Disrupted it, certainly. I think they might have nicked it, you know. Have they nicked it? I don't think they have. Their defensive alignment there as the ball is picked up. I think that is Tommy Reffel that picks up and just drives in a short channel into the Newcastle defenders on the left-hand side of the contact area. Ben Youngs just taking his time. We haven't seen us speeded the game up in these contacts, have we?
No, we haven't, no. So far the referee is giving them time. It's within the 5 seconds, but it's not quick ball, is it?
Well, Tom Penny, it isn't quick ball. Managed to jink around the first Leicester player that was flying up at him. Carl Ferns takes the ball from Stewart and heads off back towards where the contact was to get his big forwards around him. He's hauled down to the ground. Sam Stewart now takes the ball, or brings the ball back with his right foot to the back of the Caterpillar, then moves it back to Brett Connon. And a kick from Connon is going behind. That is the running Harry Potter. The ball is into the hands of Ben Youngs, just inside his 22, gets out the 22. Carreras takes him down the ground, ball is back with Potter. Potter puts his right foot through it. That's got Tom Penny running back. It's Brett Connon that picks it up and returns the compliment with a lovely right-footed kick that takes play down the left-hand touchline, fielded by Freddie Stewart. That ball is high in the air, not a lot of distance, but a lot of length. That's got Brett Connon coming forward, but two Newcastle players getting each other's way. Ball went backwards, referee says. Ball is moved from Carl Ferns on the floor to Radwan. Can he get round all of them? He's around two of them. Can he straighten up? And he puts his right foot through it. It's bouncing in front of Harry Simmons. Simmons gets the ball, left-footed kick, and Radwan is just apologising to Simmons because he went in there with his shoulder a little bit late maybe. Referee's happy to allow play to go on, but Adam Radwan knows he's hurt young Simmons there, and no intent, I'm sure, but well, thankfully he's back to his feet. And I'm sure Radwan is hanging around there just to apologise. I think he felt a bit crestfallen after that tackle, didn't he?
Yes, he did. Nothing malicious in it at all. It's just one of those collisions that happens in rugby occasionally.
Freddie Stewart again recovers the high kick. It's hammered back down the field by Stewart. Carreras is in midfield. One bounce into Carreras' hands. He steps forward. He hammers that down the middle part of the field. Ben Youngs and Atkinson move towards it. Bounces over the head of Youngs. Bounces around on the 22 line of Leicester Tigers. He comes out of that 22, hammers the ball up, and that is a good kick by Ben Youngs. It looked a scruffy kick, but he kept it low, and Brett Cullen can't get hands on it to take it quickly, so the opportunity of passing it to Tom Penny, if indeed he's ever going to do it, was gone immediately. But
2 metres shy of a 50-22 there, Smithy, as well.
15 love to Leicester on that kick tennis regime as well, disrupted by the tackle that Alan Radwan put in on young Harry Simmons. It's well, I say a young 25-year-old now, but younger than us, just by the odd 40 years or so. But Blamaya, ball in hands, 5 men in that line for Newcastle. There's a lot of movement. Where's it going to go? It's the Chavez that gets up.
Oh, wonderful.
One-handed take down by the Chavez. He's playing the rugby of his life in the Newcastle shirt on his second spell here at Kingston Park. And Newcastle drive forward. Blamaya's got that ball protected. Dan Cole tries to do some damage.
He's in from the side, surely.
He's surely in from the side. The referee's standing right next to it, and he's not doing anything.
In from the side, referee.
Well, you're the referee. You tell me. Dan Cole is there.
He's pivoted all the way around.
There are 3 Leicester players between the ball and Newcastle's scrum half, and he's saying that's okay. And
he's letting it come. He's letting it come.
He is letting it come. And
ball must be on the ground.
Well, now he's giving the scrummage to Newcastle, and that is just a recipe for a flare point. I'm sorry, but that is just a recipe for lads to get themselves involved in things they shouldn't be getting involved in.
And it's happening now. As soon as you said it, Smithy, it happened, and it was always going to. That went on far too long.
Tom Penny gets a hold of James Cronin and drags him out. Now he's pushing him away.
Tom, leave him alone. He's bigger than you.
And uglier.
Don't be. Cronin's having to go to everybody now.
Peterson's involved there now.
Yeah, this pushy shovey. There's a bit
that is just down to the referee. I'm sorry, but that was down to the referee allowing play to go on there when there was 3 Leicester players. If they were legal, that's questionable, but they were on Newcastle side, stopping anybody getting anywhere near the ball.
Dan Cole was watching the big screen. He pivoted round the contact area and came onto Newcastle's side, and that prevented the ball being used clearly by Newcastle. If he was bound on through that process, fine. To my mind, he had an arm off and then rejoined. And not good news for Leicester, actually, because they're 10, and they're desperately short of 10s at the minute.
Yep.
Charlie Atkinson.
Well, they've got Jimmy Corbett on the bench, of course, who can slot in there, but they've only got 2 backs on the bench, so that's them going to be set for the rest of the game.
Yeah, he's having some treatment on his right ankle, I think, and he's been down there some considerable period of time.
I'm getting my guardian angel sitting next to me, and she's got the ref mic in her ear, I think, and she's we couldn't get a ref mic link today, unfortunately, and Atkinson's back on his feet. I'm sure she's trying to write down what the referee's actually saying down there, and he tries to make a mark on the plastic grass, which is always amuses me.
I didn't have a problem at all with the movement. It was moving forward. Newcastle had a little bit of drive on. I had the problem with Dan Cole pivoting around with one arm on the contact and then joining again, effectively whilst one hand bound on, but he lost the other hand bind, pivoting around and joining from Newcastle's side.
But Dean, how can you get 3 Leicester players between where the ball is and where the scrum half is of Newcastle?
If they're bound on initially or come through the middle, fine, but
they must have swung around somewhere to get 3 of them in a line.
Yeah, that's the point, isn't it? Yeah.
And he said the ball was available, but Colin Green was pushover, so it was just a scrum. All right, okay. Newcastle scrummage is solid. And that is, I'm sorry, but that was number 6, Ollie Chesham, that just came in. He left the scrummage and came in at the side to put pressure on.
That's a great kick.
That's a lovely kick by Brett Connon.
Finds it,
and
hasn't quite.
Stewart tries to keep it alive, but he's taken down to ground by Maroney, and Radwan is there. Freddie Stewart, fullback of Leicester. Ball is going to be on Leicester's side. A lovely kick by Brett Connon. That was just a metre short of getting into the in-goal area, or the off-the-field area. The touch. I'll get it right in a minute. The touch line on the far side of the field.
You go there, mate. I'll just let you go.
I was sticking a hole as quick as I could. The touch line was what I was looking for. And there's now a bit of order in the play as Ben Youngs gets that ball in the air. It's got Tom Penny in the sunshine underneath it. Sets forward, steps up his right foot a couple of times, gets up to the 10-metre line of the Leicester Tigers. Wide out on the right-hand side. Ball is back with Carl Ferns into the hands of Brocklebank. Gets beyond the first man, can't get beyond the second man. That second man being Atkinson. Taken down to the ground in midfield on halfway. Brett Connon just chips it over the top. He's got Freddie Stewart running back, Ben Youngs running across. It's Ben Youngs that gets hands on it. Up to the 22, hammers it down the middle part of the field. That's going to be into the hands of Tom Penny. Takes it cleanly. Brett Connon's running around the outside of him. Little chip kick from Tom Penny.
Oh,
and that is just a couple of feet Too long, 600 millimetres, too much off the boot of Tom Penny, and that's going to be a line out to the Leicester Tigers, 2 metres inside the Newcastle half of the field. And the game's being played between the 22s.
It is. I was just going to say, you can see your former profession, 600 millimetres.
60 centimetres. Yep. Yeah. 0.6
What's wrong with inches?
No,
I mean, come
inches
on.
Are old news. I'm European, me. And Leicester used that ball in the middle part of the field, and that was Dan Kelly who it came off. And it's Brett Connon who tidies it up. Back to Stewart. Stewart gets it in the air. Where's that going to go? It bounces infield. That's a nice kick by Newcastle scrum half. Sam Stewart takes play up the right-hand touchline.
And again, Smithy, one bounce. This is 3 occasions we've very nearly seen 50-22s. It's quite a cagey game. There's a lot of physicality. There's a lot of kicking. The sides try each other out. But Newcastle at the minute, certainly in the contact areas, are getting a bit of go forward in their forwards, aren't they?
Desperate to see Newcastle's backline get some ball with a bit of space.
I think they're playing quite a cagey, clever game at the moment. They're happy to kick. They're happy to look for territory and position. They've managed to work some phases, but very interesting. That's not straight.
That wasn't straight. I was going to say, that was the first thing I was going to say, as the Leicester player bent the top part of his body about a metre towards his own side of the line to bring that ball in. But our referee was right next to it and he said it's fine. And that is taken on by, I think that's hooker Charlie Clare. That drives up the right-hand side of the contact, doesn't make much yards, so much yardage. And Gary Graham is in there, making nuisance of himself. Ben Youngs is bringing that ball back. Newcastle are putting pressure on through Peterson, but the kick is in the air. Tom Penny's going to be underneath it again. Not under too much pressure. Tom gets back towards halfway. Gets across 5 metres across that halfway line before he's brought down to ground. Ball's on the floor. Sam Stewart moves it to Colferns. Back inside to...
Trevor, wasn't it?
I think it was Brocklebank actually that took that ball into contact. Newcastle get the penalty. They're playing advantages to Chavez. Seeing the advantage, decides just to run straight at the Leicester line. Into the hands of Ferns again. Moves it on to Brett Connon. Long to Tom Penny. Penny to Adam Radwan. Tries to step inside, but Atkinson is there to stop him immediately. Looking for space, Adam working hard into the hands of Orlando. No advantage coming. Referee blows his whistle. He played a longer advantage than Mr. Makepeace did in the second half down at the Rec last weekend, didn't he?
Yeah, that was what two phases, I think, or 2 passages of play, and then back to the advantage.
So about 15 seconds, and then he sort of the advantage was gone.
Not going anywhere. Falcons just ended up with too many bodies in too narrow an area, didn't they? And Radwan was off his wing looking for work, but very much on a lateral drift, decided to step back in field, and referee deciding rightly no advantage back to the penalty, Smithy. So this is a bright start by the Falcons, I've got to say.
It is a bright start. Brett Connon puts his right foot through that ball beautifully into the sunshine in the northeast corner of the ground. The pitch is just about in shadow now, apart from the slash of sun that's coming in from the southwest corner of the ground, sort of diagonally across the Newcastle half, but the rest of the playing surface is in shadow. But just round the outside of that playing surface on the east side, the sun is bright. And Jimmy Bryan is going to have that sun in his eyes as he feeds the ball into this Newcastle line out.
Yeah,
nils each. We've played, what, 30 minutes, Dean? Sorry, I cut you off there. 30 minutes.
Quite difficult. I was watching the hookers that far side throwing in, and certainly it's difficult for them looking directly into the sunlight to get this spot on right.
It's Peterson that gets up, down the ground, to Ferns, feeds it to Sam Stewart, on to Maroney. But it's not. That is Orlando. Smashes into the Leicester defence. On to Peterson. Peterson, the big Trevor. Trevor slips past one man. Ball's on the floor. Sam Stewart to Brett Connon. Brett Connon looks for the gap because the passing lines were all cut off. Ball is on the floor, on the 5 metre line of Leicester Tigers. Moved on to Tom Penny. And it's into Carreras. Try Newcastle. That's the first time they've managed to work the ball along that back line. And Matteo Carreras gets in on the left-hand side. He went over in the corner, but I think he's managed to make it around to about 15 metres from the corner to make the kick for Brett Connon a little bit easier. And I've got to say, Dean, Newcastle fully deserve that.
Absolutely, yeah. They've had just the edge, a bit of dominance. They're happy to take on the physicality of this Leicester side. The tackling's been really, really good, and they've been really patient and working their way down the field. The penalty, super hands to get the ball through the hands there, I've got to say, and just give Carreras that little bit of space to edge round in the corner, and then sensible the young man, not dabbing the ball straight round, just bring it infield to make Brett Connon's kick, as you say, that little bit easier.
For the first time in a long time, you look at that Newcastle back line and you're excited by it.
Yeah. Tom Penny just faded out a little bit, didn't he? Did really well. Got the outside, just faded outside the player. That left the space for Carreras. Good work by Tom Penny, but lovely hands by the back line.
And Brett Connon's got the ball on the tee, a metre outside the 22, just about on the 50-metre line, left-hand side of the field. Respect the kicker. The big screen says Brett Connon steps forward. That is a beautiful kick.
Never in doubt, was it?
He's got the kicking boots on this afternoon, and that's the extras to add to the try by Carreras. So on 14 minutes, it's Newcastle Falcons 7, Leicester Tigers 0, and it's a perfect afternoon for rugby, and we've got a really interesting game developing in front of us.
We have, yeah. I mean, Leicester have gone 6-2 on the bench, and obviously want to dominate those physical encounters, and Newcastle are doing ever so well at the minute to repel them and working their way very patiently. Leicester really haven't had an attacking opportunity in Newcastle 22 yet.
Not yet. Atkinson gets the ball in the air. Has it gone 10? It has gone 10. And that is bouncing around, and Newcastle have managed to recover that, and Carreras has got hands on it, and he's away, and he's got Freddie Stewart lined up, chips over the top of him. That's got to be a penalty and a yellow card against Stewart. Have Newcastle managed to score? Is it a penalty try?
No.
A little bit too far away, maybe.
Yeah, cover coming round behind Smithy.
What's the referee given?
He's given a card already, yellow card straight away.
I saw the yellow card. I'm just wondering whether he hasn't given a penalty try.
No.
But Newcastle are going to put it in the corner. Leicester Tigers are rattled.
They're very rattled, yeah.
You could see what Stewart was going to do there 3 metres before Carreras got towards him.
I think the old professional foul, he had to do it. He was going to get 10 minutes in the bin. He saved 7 points for Leicester. You could say from that point of view, well done, Freddie Stewart. I hate to see it. But I think he obviously recognised the fact Carreras had the beating of him pace.
I think if Carreras had kept the ball in hand actually and got outside, he'd have scored.
I would have liked to see him ball in hand.
I don't know why he kicked it from there, to be brutally honest, but
yeah.
What's Brett Connon doing? He's
saying
he wants it there or there because the kick dropped further near the try line.
He's given him the option, I think, yeah.
Okay.
I think the assistant referee actually was just calling the referee where the offence was or where the ball bounced.
No, that was Jack Makepeace. He wouldn't have been doing that, mate.
Right, okay.
He would have just been standing there waiting for somebody to tell him what to do.
No.
And he's been told what to do, and he's going to put his flag in the air to indicate a Newcastle line out 5 metres from the Leicester Tigers try line. Newcastle are going to go with 5 men again. And it is De Chavez that adds himself to the line as the last man. A lot of movement. The ball is in the air. De Chavez goes up, brings it down. One hand to Callum Chick. Newcastle drive forward. They've really got the nudge going now. Can Leicester drive Newcastle into touch? And that is Gary Graham that latched himself on. Second row, Callum Green's managed to work his way around. Newcastle driving up the right-hand side. They are just about on the line. Dan Cole must be offside. I'm sorry, but he's got to be.
Yep.
And the arm comes out. Newcastle still playing advantage. Put him in the bin, ref.
Yeah, Dan Cole has done that twice now. He's pivoted round on the contact. He was let go the first time. Second time, the referee has pinged him. He's got his hands out saying, what have I done wrong? Well, you came round the side, Dan. You're an England international with 95 caps.
If you don't know, go to school.
Yeah.
I think is the expression. Newcastle put the ball in the corner again. This Leicester team do look rattled, don't they?
They do look very rattled, yeah. I mean, they'll be obviously smarting after last weekend's drubbing by Sale, and I've gone to try and dominate Newcastle in the close counter exchanges, and Newcastle have stood up to that, as I said before, Smithy, and played some really, really lovely rugby. De
Chavez takes that ball down again into the hands of Callum Chick.
It down again.
That's another penalty come. That's got to be a yellow card. Sam Stewart gets hands on the ball. It's out to Brett Connon, out to Tom Penny. Penny out to Radwan. He's going to go in the corner. Can he get there? He can't get there. The tackles come across. They stop Adam Radwan scoring wide out on the right. Sam Stewart impeded by Leicester player again. Taken on by Gary Graham. Smashes into waiting Leicester defenders. Loses the ball. What's the referee going to do?
We'll come back for the penalty, Smitty.
Why is that not a yellow card? Tell me, referee. Why is that not a yellow card?
To my mind, that would have been a yellow card.
Carl Ferns is asking the question.
The next one certainly will be. It's 2 offences in the red zone. The next, well, it should be. There should be a team warning now.
So a person is a professional foul, yellow card off the field. The next 2 phases of play, penalties.
Yeah, and the next
in the 5 metre area, nothing.
I think the next one has to be. It's consecutive plays, isn't it? That's the thing, Smithy. And another Leicester player getting treatment at the moment. They're taking a bit of a battering, aren't they?
Well, Newcastle haven't scored again, though. That's the worry.
Yeah, it is the worry.
They can take the battering all they want, but if they keep the scoreboard at 0 when or no points scored when the man's off the field, then that's going to be an issue. Why are they playing this infernal music?
I don't know. Try and G the crowd up, I would imagine. But
don't the crowd need any G'ing up, do they?
Well, not after a performance like this so far, Smithy. And referee Foley just waiting for
the Leicester player
the
down there
treatment to finish. Yeah.
I think it might be Atkinson again, actually. Is it Atkinson? No, it's not. It's Cronin. So Cronin's the one that is now restored to root health. And he joins the line as the 5th man. Newcastle again going with, well, they're not going with 6 men this time. So they put a 3 in the middle. It's coming forward is De Chavez, and he takes
Lovely
that
take
just
again.
about. Chesham manages to get up. Newcastle driving up the left-hand side, but the ball has a good disguise because the ball was over on the left, and a penalty against Newcastle.
For hanging on the ground, I think, Smithy. I think
I'm sorry, but
Leicester did enough to disrupt that. Newcastle had to peel off around the corner. I'm not certain whether that was a clear-cut penalty. It looked to me that the player was cleared off before he got the ball up, but referee's given it.
So professional foul, yellow card, 2 penalties in the 5-metre zone.
Next one should have been a yellow card.
Yeah,
it should have been a yellow card. I agree.
I gave up.
Coming up the next penalty, but
Atkinson.
I'd like to see the steal again, is all I would say.
Well, left-footed kick takes play up the right-hand touchline for Leicester Tigers. Mr. Makepeace indicates where the line-out is going to be. Trevor Davison makes his way there. Dan Cole looks smug with himself. Leicester go with 4 men in the line. There's a lot of movement. That's up, taken down by Chesham. Referee says that was straight. The West Ham don't necessarily agree with the referee. Players come forward. That hadn't gone through the line, so why can the players come forward?
Well, yeah, I agree.
Ben Young's ball is in the air. It's going to come down on Tom Penny. Penny takes it, jumps, gets down to ground, taken down by Harry Potter immediately. Ball is on the floor. Newcastle group around their fullback and captain. It is going to be Callum Chick. That is on the left-hand side. Takes the ball, smashes into second row Harry Wells and Charlie Clare, the Leicester Tigers hooker. Ball is back on the floor, and it is Charlie Clare that felt the full weight of Callum Chick there on his left arm, I think it is, and Sam Stewart gets that ball up in the air. Carreras is going to put pressure on, and he does put pressure on. That is Atkinson. Atkinson taken down the ground where he caught the ball. Ben Youngs is in there, burying himself into the contact. Moved on to Charlie Clare. Contact is made, the ball is on the floor. Ben Youngs has now got a better angle for the kick. It's still 12 metres inside the Leicester Tigers half. We've got 20 minutes of the first half gone. Colin's going to come to us in the build-up to the football in any minute now, so we're going to get interrupted in commentary as the studio comes to us. Tom Penny can't bring that ball in cleanly, but it went backwards. Brett Connon hammers that ball down the field. Ben Youngs takes it, runs back into his own 22, on to Atkinson. Looks for where the space is. Left-footed kick. Probes that space on the left-hand side of Leicester's attacking shape. It's Radwan who returns the compliment with a kick that's going to find Atkinson again. Runs towards the 10-metre line, just slows down as he puts his left foot through it, and that has got Brett Connon running forward. Takes the ball at full pace, steps inside, steps outside, ball is on the floor. Can Newcastle get it back? Referee says free ball. It's bouncing around, and Newcastle... What? He said free ball.
He did see kicking it through the ruck, I think he said, Smithy there, has he? Kicking out the ruck.
He's never moved his leg to indicate kicking.
No, he hasn't, has he? He's just put the hand up for a penalty. So it came squirting out the back of the breakdown at a rate or not, so I assume it was kicking it through the ruck. Referee deemed that ruck had formed.
Okay. I bow to your better judgment.
That's all I can think of looking at...
Atkinson gets the ball up that left-hand touchline. I'm looking to our guardian angel to see if the referee said anything there, and maybe she could write down exactly what he did say, but... was that kicking through the ruck? Is that what he said? No, it wasn't kicking through the ruck, so it was something else. So we'll wait and see what the referee said. It's really difficult without the ref link to find out exactly what's going on in these games, isn't it? As Leicester, again, that ball is up. It's taken down by Chesham. He's their go-to man this afternoon. They get the rumble on. They're up to Newcastle 22. Newcastle resists the drive. Liebenberg adds himself to the back. Ben Youngs is in there wanting that ball away. Brocklebank's got himself in the Dan Cole position on the Leicester side of the maul as it rumbles forward. Newcastle have managed to nick that, and it's into the hands of Sam Stewart, who's taken down to ground inside his own 22, and it was holding on, apparently, was the call for against Newcastle, and that went forward. It's going to be a Newcastle scrummage in their own 22, and it's all a bit fragmented, isn't it? Holding on, yeah, your mouth holding on to me there. Is
really?
Like in a face that said surprise.
Well, well, yes, that's all I'm going to say. I didn't see any of that personally, but okay, fair enough. It is a bit frenetic, aren't they? Leicester, Leicester look like Newcastle looked at the start of the season, like really trying to generate something without quite having the accuracy, whereas Newcastle seem quite comfortable in what they're doing, don't they? They're playing intelligent rugby.
But they've got to, when they get opportunities like they
have
before, they've got to convert those things, haven't they? They're not
Yeah.
going to get too many chances. They've got to get themselves as far away. And I can hear Colin in my ear, so he's going to be coming into us very, very shortly. So I'm just going to keep talking until Colin actually comes to us. And it is a scrummage which is needing reset, and referee is marking the pitch, and Sam Stewart walking away, and Colin is now going to come to us any second, so I'm going to stop and wait for Colin to come to me. Hello, Colin. Newcastle have started really well here. We've played 23 minutes of the first half at Kingston Park. A beautiful winter's afternoon for rugby. The sun is slanting across the field from the southeast corner, and very little wind down there, and the players are really giving this crowd some good fare to watch. Newcastle 7-0 ahead, try by Carreras on 14 minutes, converted by Brett Connon. Freddie Stewart in the sin bin for a professional foul on Carreras, which should really have led to a Newcastle try. Newcastle had line-outs. They had 2 more penalties against Leicester, but the referee decided cards were not going to be given. My co-commentator Dean Gray said on the 3rd one he would have given a card. I've got my doubts. We seem to be in the wrong face of officials all the time. We've got 16.5 minutes of the first half to go, and it is Newcastle Falcons 7, Leicester Tigers 0, and Brett Connon's just taken a penalty right down the right-hand touchline to give Newcastle territory in the Leicester half. And Colin will be out of our ears in just a second. I hope that was a fair summing up of what we've seen so far.
I think it was, probably, yes. Couldn't disagree with anything you said, Smithy.
The line out has been set. Blamaya's going to feed it. It's down the middle, taken by De Chavez, into the hands of Sam Stewart, across to Brett Connon. Carl Ferns is in the middle part of the field. And is he isolated? What's the referee going to do? What's he doing?
Hanging on, yeah, he seemingly went all over the pitch. I couldn't disagree with the decision. 2 players over the ball. Calvin's just got a little bit isolated. Leicester very quick over the ball. But
it's Tommy Reffel, isn't it? That's what he's really good at. And he got his hands on that ball. I tend to agree with you looking at the replay.
Yeah.
Reffel got there first. Carl Ferns actually tried to slow up to allow Newcastle players to get towards him, but they just couldn't get there quick enough.
The problem is then that you're hitting the contact with less momentum, aren't you? Which makes it easier for the players to get over the ball. So
Leicester players didn't actually tackle him. They sort of pulled him to one side and got the hands over the top, didn't they? They pulled the top part of his body towards them and then just put the hands on the top as soon as he hit the floor.
Yeah, it's quite a cute defensive play, wasn't it? Carl Ferns would probably look at that again and think he should have gone a wee bit higher and kept his feet.
Yeah, try to drive through them a little bit rather than go to the ground so quickly. Well, as long as he learns that, that's important. And Carl Ferns is in at fly half in this line-out, which Newcastle are defending, and that is just about taken down by, I think that was Callum Green that got a right paw to it. Picked up by Ben Youngs, moves it on, and that is, I think that is Harry Wells that takes the next contact. Moved on to Callum Green, into Newcastle's 22. Ben Youngs keeps it moving. Atkinson moves it on to number 11, Harry Simmons off the left wing. The ball is bouncing around. Referee is telling Matthijs Orlando he's got to leave it alone. Liebenberg drives into Peterson. Ben Youngs moves it on to Harry Potter. Potter steps inside. Ball is on the floor. Ben Youngs picks it up again, moves it towards the left. Atkinson pushes the ball on into the hands of Simmons. He gets inside that 22. Again, change of direction as Youngs brings it back towards the middle part of the field. Charlie Clare protects the ball as he goes down to ground on the 22. Dan Cole, takes the next ball into contact. Newcastle driving back. Brocklebank involved in the tackle. Ben Youngs changes direction again, and that is a kick end over end. That's bouncing in front of Tom Penny from Atkinson. Penny picks it up, steps inside Leicester players, and he's heading towards the 22. Into the hands of Radwan with a bit of space. Radwan steps inside, can't get away. It's into the hands eventually. Was that Sam Stewart that got there? And Radwan did well to stay on his feet and get that ball away. Radwan's back to his feet and hitting contact yet again. Ball is on the floor. Referee telling Leicester to get hands off it. Sam Stewart is there, and it's going to be fed on to, well, Newcastle get absolutely barrelled. And the ball is saying that ball is free. How he came in from this side, surely to goodness.
Yeah, the referee said the ball was free, but it looked like it was still in the ruck to my mind. Must have squirted out of the side of the ruck, I only assume, Smithy. But
Liebenberg takes the next contact, juggles with the ball. Ben Youngs gets there eventually. He's not endearing himself, this referee, again, is he? And Brett Connon takes a ball from...
Space.
They've got space. Tom Penny into Carreras. Carreras up to the halfway line, chips it over the top. It's a race between Carreras and Dan Kelly. Carreras, can he bring that ball in? He can't bring it in. Knocked forward by Dan Kelly. Picked up by Tom Penny. Penny's got the ball in hand. Why did the referee not play advantage?
Knock on, yes, he could have played advantage. I'm not certain why he stopped. He could have given that another 3 or 4 seconds to see what happened afterwards and gone back for that knock-on advantage.
Tom Penny standing in front of the referee, arms outstretched, ball in one of those hands, saying, I've got the ball, I'm a metre from the line.
Yeah, it's an opportunity missed, isn't it, by the Falcons from a refereeing decision that was just too quick on the whistle. I'm sure Tom Foley will look back at it and think, why did I put the whistle in my mouth?
I'm sure he'd not look back and think
that. Well, I hope he does. I think Tom Foley's a good referee. I just think he'll look at that and think...
You think Mr. Makepeace will give him some positive reinforcement of his decision-making from that corner?
Shall we go back to the positives here? That is, Newcastle at the minute are all over this Leicester side. They're absolutely all over them like a rash. And Leicester at the moment don't have an answer to Newcastle's lightning-quick counter-attack.
Batiengo's having to come on the field, and I think that's Maroney who's having to go off. And that'll be for an HIA. The referee has said sorry to Tom Penny.
Yeah, well,
there you go. I suppose that's all he can say when you're
it
a real Henry's again.
It happens, yeah, but it shouldn't happen at this level. It's a decision that could cost ultimately Newcastle certainly a try in that situation in all probability, and potentially the game. At the minute, though, let's focus on the positives. This Newcastle side, as I said before, is playing the best rugby I've seen them play this season, certainly.
Well, Tom Penny has moved from full-back to inside centre. Matthias Orlando's moved to outside centre, and onto the fields come Elliot Abatayinbo, and he's dropped into full-back. Played well down at Bath last week. Maybe a bit unlucky not to start this afternoon, but I'm sure they wanted their captain Tom Penny on the field somewhere. To get the Argentine backline that they started the game with is something quite special. So hopefully Maroney will find his way back on the field. I think he's got a bit of a burst bugle. The towel was over his nose. Newcastle scrummage is solid. Sam Stewart picks that ball. Ferns to Sam Stewart, moves it on to Brett Connon. Brett Connon steps back inside, heading towards the line. Can he get there? He's a metre short of that line. Newcastle pick it up, and are they over? Ferns picked and drive up the right hand side, pick and drive again. Are they over the line? Try given. I think that was Callum Chick that got up there. We'll see in a minute, but Newcastle's pressure eventually has cleared off.
And I'm pretty certain referee Tom Foley will be just mopping his brow thinking, thank goodness they got a try eventually from that after his decision before. An easier try to convert as well, Smithy, a 7-pointer, almost guaranteed. Good work by Callum Chick, really good work coming around the corner by the forwards. Brett Connon didn't get the best ball, had to pick it up with his bootlaces, but a relatively kind bounce, and did well to ghost through a little bit of a gap. And after that, just a couple of forward drives. Callum Chick, well done, good spot for the space.
Just saw the number 7 flash in front of my eyes as he dived through a hole and holding on for the knock-on. Yeah, it was the Leicester player that knocked the ball on. I got that, but Tom Penny picked up the rebound and probably should have walked over the line for the try, but sorry, said the referee, so that's fine.
It's always difficult to keep the whistle out your mouth as a referee. It's one of the hardest things to do when you're taught. It's something you want to do straight off at this level. Tom Foley will recognise immediately he got that one wrong, but he'd be very relieved.
Well, Tom Foley went upstairs actually to get that checked, and the TMO is Andrew Jackson, and Andrew Jackson checked it and said everything's fine. So Brett Connon has now got the ability to kick the extras. Although Brett Connon is still taking his time. I don't know what the hold-up is, but
I think he's just making sure everybody gets a breather, I think, Smithy.
Well, there you go. He steps forward and he smacks that through the middle. And the inane music starts again. I'll be dreaming about this music all night, you know.
Well, you will when you got that rave. You would have heard half the music already when you get that rave tonight.
Taking one of the dogs to the rave. Me and Charlie are raving it up later on, And,
so Cassie and Kath will be going to a bar concert somewhere. Bar concert. No, come on.
No, they've got the log fire going. They'll be in front of that. Atkinson is going to get the game restarted. What we've got, 11 minutes of the half to go. 14-0. Newcastle ahead on the scoreboard at Kingston Park. De Chavez takes that ball under pressure from Harry Potter. Abatayinbo trying to shield that ball. Sam Stewart is there just getting players organised, and it is Carl Ferns that takes it, and he stays inside his own 22 just to make sure that when Sam Stewart kicks this off the field it can go directly into touch. That was good play by Newcastle's number 8, and Sam Stewart's bringing the ball back. He's got some big men going to be putting pressure on him here. There's Wells, there's Chesham, there's Callum Green. It's Wells that puts the most pressure on him, but a right-footed kick.
That's a good kick.
It's a good kick, and that had Freddie Stewart coming across to this right-hand side of the field, just in the way of a cameraman, really. The cameraman got in his way a little bit, but quickly was moved to one side as the ball bounced into touch, and it's going to be Charlie Clare to feed this line out. And they're going quickly. Harry Wells is up,
tempo.
Down to Ben Youngs, into midfield, and that is inside centre Dan Kelly. That just looks for the contact, goes straight into it. Ball moved on to Chesham and doesn't find his man Atkinson, and that bounces around behind Freddie Stewart, who puts his right foot through, tries to recover a situation. That's going to bounce in front of Abatayinbo, and then across to his right, into his hands eventually, and a left-footed kick from the former Saracen has got Stewart again underneath it, and that isn't Stewart out there. I think that is that Matt Scott actually, who gets through a gap. In fact, it's not. That is Harry Potter, who went across onto the wrong wing, covering the back's position. And Chesham on to Atkinson. Atkinson through a gap, steps back off his left foot into waiting traffic. Ben Youngs moves it across. Callum Green can't see a pass on, so takes the contact. De Chavez brings him down to ground. The ball's available for Ben Youngs. Moves it back towards the left into the hands of Charlie Clare. Clare is driven back over the 10-metre line by Newcastle's defence. Ben Youngs again to Atkinson. Moves it on to Chesham. Chesham bounces the first Newcastle defender. Ball is on the floor. Ben Youngs is there yet again. Moves it to Wells. Wells into the arms of Trevor Davison, who rolls away when he hits the floor, allows Ben Youngs to pick and move the ball on. It's into the hands eventually of Liebenberg, and Brocklebank rolls away from the tackle, and that is a real forced pass by Ben Youngs to Dan Kelly. And Newcastle's defence at the moment, Dean, is looking pretty strong. I hope that's not the kiss of death, but they are looking pretty uncomfortable.
They are, aren't they? They're not pushing up too hard. They're maintaining their sort of width and their numbers as well, Smithy, but they're making fairly dominant tackles, and this Leicester attack just looks ponderous at times at the moment.
They're struggling to break the gain line, aren't they?
They've gone back about 7-8 yards there.
They're changing directions back towards the left-hand touchline, the east stand. They're playing from left to right in front of us. The ball, Ben Youngs moves it on again. Now they're into a bit of space, and that is Potter, who moves that ball onto Chesham, back inside, and that is Matt Scott, who's just a metre from Newcastle's try line. Ben Youngs looks for the corner, dives over the top. We're complimenting Newcastle's defence, and as soon as you do, a player like Ben Youngs doesn't need a second invitation. He saw where the space was, took it back towards the left-hand side. 3 phases later, try.
Yeah, what was that through? About probably 11 or 12 phases, just patient on the ball. Didn't seem to be going where Newcastle structurally looked pretty solid. Then Ben Youngs just spotting that wee bit of space on the left-hand side, getting the ball out there in the narrow area, and just exploiting numbers. Managed to work the extra over, and after that the try was always coming. Some decent running line, some good hands there to finish off.
Well, Atkinson's got a difficult kick because it's left-footed kick out left-hand side of the field. I'm sure he's well used to these, but it's hugging that left-hand touch line. How many millimetres do you think that is?
Yeah, I've no idea. You're the
300.
You're the engineer.
300 millimetres, I'd say, from that left-hand touch line.
I reckon it's about 8 inches.
That's a foot, you idiot.
I know. I think it's closer.
No, you didn't know. You did.
Of course I knew. 25 centimetres. 25 millimetres is.
Keep going.
Yeah, 2.5 centimetres is an inch. 25 millimetres is an inch.
2.5 centimetres.
Yeah, it's an inch, isn't it?
Go on. No.
Yeah, it is.
30 is an inch. No, it's not. 25 is an inch. You're
Thank
right.
you.
30 is a foot.
God, I'd hate to go to one of your buildings.
Exactly. And that is a kick by Atkinson. That
failed.
never
Miserable.
looks like it's
That's
going to. In fact,
awful.
it dropped 10 metres short of the posts.
He's not right. He's not right. That's a problem, I think, with his ankle, because that is the worst kick I've seen this season at the sticks by any player.
Well, he didn't strike it well. Let's just say that. He's staying on the field. He's probably got to, because of the paucity of backs that Leicester have got on the bench. They've either gone 6-2 is their split, so 6 forwards, 2 backs. Jimmy Gopworth would be the obvious replacement to go in there, fly half, but they might be saving the former Falcon for the second half. Big high kick, and that has found the hands of number 8, Hanro Liebenberg. Takes the contact, still inside the Leicester Tigers 22. Ben Youngs just taking his time, bringing that ball back. Ball is in the air, that's got to Batayinbo underneath it, and he's taken down immediately, gets that ball back under big pressure. Newcastle are really trying to protect that ball. I think they've just about done enough to protect it.
I think Leicester
no,
won that on the ground.
Well, penalty against Leicester.
Yep.
Why is that? He indicated a scrummage to Leicester.
I think it's mouth, Smithy, to be quite honest. I think it's mouth. He's speaking to a player. He indicated a scrum. I think the Leicester going forward, ball on the ground, a fair contest. And then I think somebody said something, and he's reversed that to a penalty to Newcastle.
Well, okay.
I don't know. I mean,
that's the only thing we can surmise from what we saw in front of us, isn't it? But again, no doubt we'll find out in a second when a note is scribbled down exactly what was said. Should give my wife a microphone, shouldn't she? And she can actually come on and tell us what the referee is saying.
Indeed, yeah.
She might hit me with it though. That's probably the downside of all of that.
I said normally on a day again we'll go and get the coffees, but this is a great game. Shouting, yeah, I thought it must be.
Okay,
yeah.
So shouting at the ref, and the referee's got anxious and angry, and he's penalised Leicester. Newcastle put the ball off the field to get the line out, 2 metres outside the Leicester 22, right-hand side of the field. Lovely throw to Cotton Chick, down to Sam Stewart, across to Brett Connon, into the hands of Orlando, on to Carl Ferns. He's held up, he's done back, that ball is on the floor. Sam Stewart moves it on to Peterson. Peterson just gets himself lined up to hit Liebenberg, which he does. The ball is on the floor. Reffel tries to rescue it away. Gary Graham takes the pass from Sam Stewart, runs into Dan Cole. Leicester player on the wrong side, Callum Green, but the referee's happy. Ball in the hands of Penny. Lumaya gives the dummy, steps inside. Liebenberg just about brings him down to ground. Leicester player on the wrong side. Touches his arms in the air to indicate he's not doing anything, but he's still on the wrong side. To Chavez, takes a ball from Brett Connon. Ball's in midfield. Sam Stewart is there, keeps it moving towards the right. Brett Connon brings it back. He's in the gap, moves it on. Try Newcastle under the post. That's the first break I have seen Brett Connon make in about 3 years, and he picks his moments.
He does pick his moments, doesn't he? He's tried a couple of times to ghost through a gap, did it earlier on, which set up the second try, and once again finding a little bit of space. And that simple inside pop, Carreras looking for work, coming round, looking for work from the inside shoulder of Brett Connon, just opened up that Leicester defence so easily. That was a simple try, very well executed by the Falcons. They are playing some very, very good rugby.
I hope this doesn't sound patronising, it's not meant to in any way, shape or form, but Brett Connon is just developing into a really competent Premiership fly-half.
Absolutely.
This season he's just stepped up a level and he seems to have time, and I wasn't being patronising with what I just said there. That's the first clean break. He planted his right foot, went off to the left, ghosted through a gap, and he's got the extra. No, he hasn't. Sorry, Carreras is running back. I'm looking at you as I'm speaking, because that's polite, my mum always told us. But he's just playing some superb rugby. Now he does get the extras. 21-5.
That's the acid test of any quality fly half, is a player who looks like he's got time. He doesn't have time. He just exudes that confidence and that authority by always looking like he knows the right thing to do, and he's got the time to execute that.
And he now becomes a target.
He does. He will be.
He's got that time now, and he's going to be a target, and he's got to start using that time effectively.
Yeah, to bring players on, because when he becomes a target, that opens space up around him.
Absolutely. Atkinson gets the game restarted. The ball is in the air. Gary Graham's underneath it, takes it cleanly. Well, he doesn't take it cleanly. It bounces out of his hands, but it goes backwards. Ben Youngs across to Liebenberg. Out wide, left-hand side, I think that is Harry Simmons takes the contact. Ben Youngs back to Dan Cole. Slams his right foot into the ground, goes off to the left, makes 2 paces into the 22, goes down to ground. Ball is back eventually to Atkinson. Atkinson moves it on to Carreras. Carreras intercepts across halfway, across the 10-metre line. Harry Potter chasing, no way he's going to get anywhere near him. Bonus point try, Mario Carreras. Have you ever?
Hat-trick in the first half for the young man. Good grief, he's some player, isn't he? That was a great spot. Error from the kick-off, we say that time and again. Leicester pressing the buttons really hard. Carreras picking it off and running 80 metres for a solo effort. The easiest try he's had this afternoon, I think, pretty much. But
dance cam
indeed. What a terrific spot by him. And Leicester look absolutely rudderless. They look all over the shop. The physical approach hasn't worked, and they now look, some big-name players there, look completely lost. This Falcon side is shredding them at the minute.
As soon as he got the ball in hand on his own 22, that was a try.
Gone. Yeah, nobody's going to get near him.
Absolutely gone.
Yeah.
He left Harry Potter, and Potter, in fairness, had a lot to make up. He left him for dead.
But the thing this Leicester side has a lot of physicality, a lot of weight, a lot of beef, a lot of strength. It doesn't have a lot of raw gas in it. And Newcastle, if they can find the edges, are starting to show the benefit of having wingers with real pace and skillful handling backs at the minute. This is a terrific first 40 by the Falcons.
And Newcastle should have had more scores.
Yes, they should have at least one more. Possibly 2.
Well, that's the bonus point
Bonus point first half, good grief.
Being told the ref is saying something. Said, well, there's a big long note being written across my team here. It's worth being repeated.
It's probably what you're having for tea.
Well, no, the referee has said, let's stay there and let's have a look as he walks back towards the middle.
Just to see if Carreras, I guess, was onside from the additional contact.
Thumbs up has gone from Tom to the Newcastle team. I wonder what Jack was thinking after the performance down at Bath last weekend. Newcastle against Leicester Tigers, and the ball is in the air. Atkinson, end over end. De Chavez is underneath it. There's a jump for that ball, and it is into the hand, knocked forward off a Newcastle player, and that's Carreras again that intercepts that ball.
He's coming back to the knock-on, though, Smithy.
But he allowed them to play on.
Yeah, he's coming off the knock-on. Newcastle still the ball. It was a knock-on, so fair enough. It was just one pass, wasn't it? So no advantage, not a problem with that. Well,
Carreras intercepted that ball again. That was Reffel, I think, who was trying to keep the game alive. There's 18 seconds on the first half clock. Wow.
I'm absolutely blown away, to be quite honest. Absolutely blown away. And he's now saying it's a penalty for a late tackle. Or an early tackle, I'm not certain. I didn't see it, Smithy, but it's fed in by the assistant referee this side, I guess.
That'll be Mr. Makepeace then.
Yeah, well.
Well spotted, Jack. Oh, dear me.
Did you see it? I didn't see it.
I didn't see it. And honestly, if I did see it, I would say. And Carreras is just looking at Mr. Makepeace with a look of angst on his face, smiles at him, laughs at him. Makepeace turns his head the opposite way.
Well, we know what's coming here. We know what's coming here. This will be a take probably, I would imagine, at 4 in the drive from there.
Well, Newcastle got a man up. That. Chesham takes that ball down. It's into the hands of Charlie Clare. Leicester drive forward towards the Newcastle 5-metre line.
That'll be penalty coming down.
It's on the floor. There'll not be a yellow card though, because it wasn't down there for Leicester. That ball has moved on into the hands of Stewart. It's back to Atkinson. Atkinson, nobody to pass to.
Yep.
He's driven back,
and
they're coming back for the penalty. Taken down, the referee says, and it is Liebenberg that's got ball in hand as he jogs back to where the offence took place, and they're going to go in the corner again. They've got to get the Chavez in the air.
They did before, yeah. I would just get them up immediately, because if they don't get that contact right, then Leicester should score from this with the size, the power, the beef that they've got.
And it is Atkinson who, with his left foot, puts the ball into the corner.
I like Carreras, you know. He still has a run there to see if he can get the ball. I mean, absolutely pointless in some respect.
He walked back Jack Macepiece and patted him on the back, you know. So he's a cheeky chappy. That ball's up, taken down by Callum Green into the hands of Tommy Reffel. They drive up the right-hand side. Can Newcastle get them towards the touchline? Newcastle have managed to stem that drive. Reffel still got hands on the ball. Ben Youngs is in there. Secondary drive coming from Leicester. All the players are involved. Where's it going? Are they over the line? Referee is down there. What's he looking at? Referee is saying...
He's held up. He's saying held up.
He's saying, I think, but I'm sure the TM will want to have a look at it.
I think he'll be having a word with his assistant referee, but he can be
no
closer.
I wish we had the ref, mate.
He's saying held up. He's saying held up, goal line dropout.
But he's saying... What's he saying? Is he saying penalty?
Well,
Tom Penny's jogged across the field. I don't know what he's saying. And Harry Wells is in massive conversations.
Yeah, same penalty.
How has he just put... How could he not see that earlier then? He's on the floor looking for the ball on the floor.
I think he's saying Newcastle sacked that again. But he's, again, Tom Foley, it's a thing when we are watching games without a ref link. I'd like to see Tom Foley signal. I've always thought referees signal 3 times. At least 3 times, so everybody gets the decision that you've given.
I haven't got a clue because there's so many bodies around there.
I'm assuming
you just
Newcastle
left bemused, don't you? Chesson takes that down. Again, Leicester drive around. Their big blind side. Blameyer is looking at the assistant referee. It's Dan Cole that he's complaining about.
That's once, now
they've got to use it. They've got to start thinking about using it. Newcastle have managed to stem the drive. It's broken up, it's on the floor. Newcastle have got it. Penalty against Newcastle.
It's saying offside there. That was the signal then for offside. So 3rd penalty. Now the next one, this should be a warning. Next one should be a card. He's having a word with Tom Penny. Yeah, dead right.
So was that offside? He's saying.
Yeah, he signalled offside.
Okay.
I'm not certain where the offside was, but that was the signal.
Well, it was Orlando that got in and got the ball, so presume it was Orlando that was in front of the back feet.
Yeah, there's the signal again, offside.
So offside, right, so Atkinson's going to put the ball in the corner
yet
again. At the moment, we've got a 26-5 game. Leicester desperately trying to get a score.
28-5.
28 got the conversion that he did. Sorry, beg your pardon. I didn't write that down. So we got a 28-5 game. And that's taken down by Harry Wells this time. Newcastle repel the drive to start with. Charlie Clare is in there. They've been told to use it. The referee's saying it's Reffel that's got hands on the ball. Liebenberg adds his weight to it. It's driving up the left-hand side. Referee, well, it is moving forward in fairness. Leicester Tigers, are they across the line? They're not over the line.
Pulled it down again, and it's going to be a yellow
card.
It'll be Peterson, I think.
And is that going to be a penalty try?
It won't be, because the try would not, in all probability, have been scored. It was pulled down too far away from the line. I think the referee gave a penalty try, but Newcastle just have to be really careful. I mean, you would almost say at this point, keep trying to disrupt it, try and be squeaky clean, because you're going to start the first 10 minutes of the second half, or first probably 9 minutes of the second half down a man. You'd almost say let them have the try, get back the change rooms, fella. You've still got a decent lead.
It's just pride, isn't it?
It is, but I would now
get the Chavez up. Just get him at the front of the line and get him up.
Yep.
Well, they're not going to. That's into the hands of Callum Green. He's down to ground. Reffel's on him immediately. Leicester drive up the right-hand side. Newcastle now down to 14 men. It stopped initially. Ben Youngs is in there. It's just got a little bit of movement again. They're driving up the right-hand side. This is going to end one way. We've been saying that for 2 minutes. And Gary Graham's getting himself back on the right-hand side of the contact. Where's that going? Referee's on the floor. What's Ben Youngs going to do? Ben Youngs is in there looking for the ball. Newcastle have got to get wingers out. Atkinson is hooking that right-hand touchline. Newcastle have managed to repel that, but Leicester are going to come again as they pick the ball and drive up the left-hand side. They're up there. They hit the ground before they get to the try line. They pick and drive again. Again, hit the ground before they get there. Leicester player flops on top of the contact. Leicester driving again up the left-hand side. Ball is on the floor. Newcastle's defence is manful, and another penalty comes against Newcastle. Another penalty comes, and that is going to be a ball that Radwan is onto Atkinson. Ball is on the floor. Another penalty against Newcastle.
Offside again.
They were camped on the try line.
5 penalties now, 1 yellow card. Newcastle got to be really, really careful they don't go down to 13.
And that is Carreras, who's been held up by Radwan.
I just wonder now, with Leicester having that extra man, whether they elect to scrum rather than take the line out.
I'm not sure. Ben Youngs is having big conversations. The scrummage has been really solid. The scrum hasn't gone down yet, mate.
No, it hasn't. It's remarkable. First game I've seen. Yeah, they've gone for the line out again.
And it is Atkinson.
I think the first scrum actually did complete for the first time ever.
Yeah, I don't think there's been any scrum penalties in this game. Not many scrums, mate.
Not many scrums, no.
But, another line out for the Leicester Tigers. And what my watch is telling me, that we've played about 7 minutes over the 40. So this has gone on an awful long time. And that is taken down by Harry Wells. It's in the hands of Reffel. Reffel latches onto the big second row. The backs get involved. Harry Potter's in there. They are driving towards the try line. They're over the 5 metre line of Newcastle. Newcastle still are trying to repel this Leicester Tigers pack. Leicester get another bit of a nudge on. They're over the line this time, and the try's eventually been given. Newcastle's defence was manful, but it cost a man in the bin. Tom Penny isn't happy. He's come up to speak to the referee. He's walking away now, and Newcastle 5-6 line-outs to try to defend there.
Yep.
And it was inevitable. You've got to say that, almost inevitable. Can you say that? Is that good English?
Yeah, it was inevitable that Leicester, past masters of that, would eventually score. You would imagine from that. I think Newcastle's only option did put Chavez up once. I think in that situation I would have put him every time, to be quite honest.
Well,
because you know what's going to come. You know you're going to end up with a player in the bin if you defend it, and eventually that's what did happen. And I think one more penalty and Newcastle would have been down to 13, and that would have made a really difficult start for the second half for Newcastle, for 10 minutes down to 13 players.
Charlie Clare is the one that's going to warm the bench. Sorry, not warm the bench. Charlie Clare is the one that scored the try, and I'm being told something, but I need it written down because I can't really hear what is going on when things have been said to me with headphones on. So
I think there's a pause, certainly the referee looking at something. It's gone to TMO.
All right, okay.
So is the foul play? Is it ahead of the ball carrier? Has the ball been dropped?
Right, the referee is looking at something, and that's what I'm trying to be told. The referee is looking at something up on the big screen.
Is it the grounding?
So the try hasn't been given yet, and Maroney is back on the field. So Matthias Maroney has come back on. So Elliot Abate-Inbo will have left the field.
There's the big screen.
What's the referee actually looking at?
It is a million miles away from where we're sat. It's really it must be the grounding,
right,
Smithy.
The referee's checking something.
Well, it can't be the grounding. He's right next to it. He's seen the ball grounded.
See if it was forward. He's checking to see if it was initially forward. Makepeace is come to speak to Tom Penny, and whether it was lost forward is what the referee is looking at. Whether the ball was lost forward, which would then be a scrummage to Newcastle end of half.
Is this meant to be the new laws about speeding
the
things
game
up?
Yes, it's speeding the game
up. This is why I think it's a nonsense to ask the TMO to hurry up, and big decisions like this, it's just more important the TMO gets things right.
Well, Leicester think they've scored. Charlie Clare thinks he's got the try. They're looking at angles. We've got the angle there. Charlie Clare, if that is Clare, I can't even see the ball, to be honest with you, on the big screen, so I can't see who it is that's trying to put it down.
No, I can't.
There's a scream, it's a knock on from behind me.
It blurs into the white shorts of Leicester.
No
try.
Referee saying no try, and that is half time. And I've got to say, Dean, in fairness to the referee, I couldn't see anything on that big screen that would make me change my mind and not allow the try.
I think that the problem was white shorts for Leicester, and the ball is obviously white. It's very difficult to see from where we're sat, but good spot by the TMO, who is Andrew Jackson, coming up with a knock on. So Newcastle lost the man to the bin, but preserved a 5 point, possibly 7 point try that would have been awarded against them. So terrific.
And Maroney is back on the field.
Which is good news.
Yeah, it is good news. And he's walking off with the officials. And Brocklebank is walking off with one of the Newcastle physios. And the referee's in the limelight again, isn't he? But against Newcastle at one end of the field, and for Newcastle at the very end of the game at the other end of the field. And it's referees, whether we like it or not, referees take centre stage in every rugby game that we see.
They do, and we have to be fair, because Newcastle are handsomely ahead in this game, 28-5. But I just think there are times when refereeing isn't quite as good as it could be. The perfect example, and we disagree with decisions. Referees have different views. They rely upon the people around them and the TMO to get the best view and feed them stuff in. They see stuff we don't. The big decision in that half, and Newcastle did eventually score underneath the sticks, was not playing advantage from the knock forward by Leicester from the breakaway, and when Tom Penny would have scored. Now, things like that can make a massive difference. If Newcastle hadn't have scored then, had that try been allowed, TMO not picked that up, this would have been a very, very different game from what it is now, going into the second half with a much tighter score. That's a 14-point differential.
Richard Wigglesworth's honeymoon period, if you ever had one's over, isn't it?
It is. I mean, I don't quite know what's gone wrong. He's picked a side, as I said before, which is based on power, and Newcastle repelled that. There's not a lot of... The thing about this Leicester side, it's all brute force and big players. There's not a lot of gas. And at the minute, Newcastle are using the pace and the speed that they've got and moving the ball around the field, defending really well as well, it must be said, but they're finding space and picking off things. A perfect example is Carreras' 85-metre try, picking off a pass, where Leicester had the ball over 6-7 phases but weren't going anywhere. They looked a bit ponderous. They looked like they didn't have a game breaker. And as I said, I'll say again, first 40 minutes, best rugby I've seen this season by the Falcons. Terrific stuff.
Premiership champions, Kingston Park, first home game of the new year. Bonus point try before half-time and a hat-trick for Carreras in the first half.
You couldn't write it, could you? Absolutely brilliant. We did have a feeling this could be a good game for Newcastle today. Both you and I said the win with a real shout. Leicester, to be fair, missing 5 big names that would be in there. But you've got to play what's in front of you. Newcastle are missing players as well. So just a great first 40 by Newcastle. Well done.
Long game of rugby to go, but Newcastle ahead on the scoreboard at half-time, 28-5. And Newcastle will have to implode in the second half for them not to come away with all of the points here at Kingston Park this afternoon. It's all changed at the top of England rugby, and in our last 2 half-time slots, we heard from new head coach Steve Borthwick and the RFU chief executive Hugh Sweeney. This afternoon, we hear from Kevin Sinfield, who's left Leicester Tigers to be part of Steve Borthwick's coaching team.
Kevin, happy New Year. Great to see you. June 2021, joining the Tigers. December 2022, in as an England coach. It all happened quite quick, isn't it?
Yeah, happy New Year to start with. Yeah, it happened very quick. Must say I'm honoured and delighted to be here. To work alongside Steve with our national team, something I'm really passionate about and proud to be involved in. And then over the last couple of days, to see the calibre of player we've got available is really, really exciting. So I'm looking forward to what's to come this year.
You mentioned Steve. When he approached you to say, I'm going, come with me, what did you think?
Yeah, I was pretty happy.
Let's do it, basically.
Yeah, I think I love my time at Leicester. It's been brilliant, and everybody's welcomed me and supported me, and I've made so many great friends there too. And I think it's always sad when you leave a place where you've got so many good memories and so many good friendships. But this was just a wonderful opportunity, to work for your national team. Anything is incredible, but with the opportunities that are available in 2023, it was just a great opportunity.
Just one of those you couldn't turn down, kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tell us about you and Steve and how you work and complement each other, because it seems to have been a recipe for success at the Tigers.
I think that started before I got there. Steve put together a really good playing squad. The coaching team was very, very strong before I joined, so I think Steve needs to take an enormous amount of credit for the job he did there. We got on really well. There's a real trust. There's an understanding. He is an incredible guy. The bit you probably don't see is how much he cares about people and how much empathy he's got for people, how much he wants to support and really help people get better every day. And that's what really drew me in. And those other bits, the diligence, how hard working he is, I think people already know that. People know too how much he's willing to sacrifice of himself and willing to fight for the group. But the bit people probably don't see is how much he cares. And I've seen that firsthand over the last 15 months, 16 months, which makes it a really, really easy decision when somebody asks you to come with them, that you want to do it because you know the type of guy you work with.
So in your mind, Kevin, what percentage or what part of coaching is people, and what part is the philosophy, strategy, technical, tactical side, and how much is really getting to grips with people?
I think that probably changes in the circumstances and who you're working with and the sort of connections, relationships you've got already. But yeah, it's both. Those connections and relationships are really important to me. They were at Leicester, they have been in my playing career, they are in my personal life. But people need direction, people need clarity, and I think when you get clarity, players take confidence from it and know exactly what their job is. We will hopefully provide an environment where there's clarity but also there's a togetherness, there's a fight, there's a spirit where they look after each other and care for each other, and that's really important to us.
We know what you were all about as a player. You won so much in the game, and those bonds that we saw at Leeds are still, so strong to this day, as we know about. We'll touch upon in a bit. But how would you describe yourself as a coach?
I'm not sure. You'd probably be best off asking some of the players or Steve. What I would say is I want to help players be better every day. I want to help players improve. I'm an honest kind of bloke. I wear me out on my sleeve. I think it's important to have those difficult conversations, and you don't have those conversations because you don't love or care about somebody. You have them because it's the opposite. You love and care about them. So, yeah, I've really enjoyed my time as a coach. Just giving me a chance to really help and support people and get a lot of fulfilment out of that. And I think when you finish playing, you're looking for something to fill that void of giving you that fulfilment. 30 odd times a year that I had as a player, and suddenly it's gone. So coaching's allowed me to.
The next best thing from that point of view.
I'm not sure if it's the next best thing. I think at times it's probably more fulfilling than playing.
Really?
Yeah, because I think when you're helping somebody be better, it's a far greater gift than doing it yourself, and you get a lot more reward from it.
Because it's often said by elite sports people who retire that nothing can replicate that buzz of playing, but you get similar, if not more, of a buzz or a feeling coaching.
I think so. I think seeing people have joy, seeing people being happy, seeing people improve, seeing them glow and have a spirit about them, that they're in an environment that supports them and wants them to be better. I think that's a really good play. I've probably changed the last couple of years, and some of that's down to my good mate Rob Burrow. But yeah, I've really enjoyed coaching a lot more than I thought I would, and to be able to work with Steve in this environment is incredible.
You said you've changed over the last few years, and you mentioned Rob. Is that where you've become more selfless? Because as a player, you've often got to be quite selfish. But have the last few years seen you become more selfless, do you think?
Possibly. I like to think it was quite a selfless guy anyway, and I was a captain for 13 years at a club that I loved to bits. So I don't think you can be a captain and be a selfish bloke. I just don't think the two sit hand in hand. But what I would say is, over the last couple of years, you understood that we're not here for a long time, and you've got to try and make the best of it. And how you spend your time and where you spend your time and what you go after is the bits that are important. And now I spend a lot of my time trying to help other people, and I get a real buzz out of that. Of course, there's stuff that I do for myself, of course, there's stuff that I do for my family, but I really enjoy working with the guys and hopefully providing them with an environment where they feel like they're valued, they're supported, and they're encouraged to get better every day.
And those themes that you touched on a bit there with helping Rob for the charity raising, has that been helping your coaching, do you think, as well?
Yeah, massively.
Yeah.
I think I do my best thinking and I'm at my clearest when I'm running.
Right.
So being able to put the two together, running and then trying to raise awareness and funds for the M&D Association, trying to raise money and funds and provide hope for the M&D community, trying to show Rob that I'm willing to fight like he fights in a very, very different way, I must say, but trying to show him that we care about him. Yeah, absolutely.
And those kind of that ethos, you've taken that into your coaching, I imagine, and you want England defence now. Is it first, second, third going to be about fight? How much of it is going to be about a defensive system and about a plan for the opposition, and how much of it really comes down to the bloke either side of you and working hard for each other?
Well, it's a combination of the three. We need to have a system. We need to understand each other's roles within that. We need to understand within that we'll get stuff wrong. We need to understand there's some brilliant attacks out there that'll be able to manipulate our defence and get it to do things it shouldn't do. But then the bit where you help your mate is going to be so important for us. And that's the bit that my playing career gave me. I was with an unbelievable group of players who are great friends, and just because we finished playing, the whistle blown, and we come off the pitch now, those friendships don't stop. So I want these guys to feel what I've been fortunate enough to feel, Hopefully they don't have to go through what we've had to go through with Rob for them to feel that. But I think they can understand it and grip it, that actually the things that are important from your career, you can have a load of money and a load of medals, but ultimately the friendships and the memories are what really, really important.
And so those values are going to be true to you across playing and coaching and into this role, I imagine. But, learning more about rugby union attacks, rugby union defences, because as we touched upon, you've for 16 months or so as a rugby union coach. How much are you constantly learning new stuff as a coach?
Yeah, learning every day.
Yeah.
I don't think that ever stops. I think if you had Steve sat here now and was asking him if he was still learning, he'd tell you yes. I've probably got a bigger gap to go after than Steve has. In fact, I know I have. So to have his support, to have the support of our management team, our coaching team, to have the support of our players, there's so much knowledge and intelligence, rugby intelligence in our players, and I need to tap into that too. And when you're at this level, it's important. Yes, of course the coaches are going to give direction, but within that we're bringing a whole host of Premiership clubs together and their players together and understand they're all in different systems. So being able to pick the right one for this group is going to be really important going forward.
And if you look at the Six Nations, you're going to be coaching England, Andy Farrell at Ireland, Sean Edwards at France. Real rugby league influence seems to only be getting more and more prevalent in rugby at the elite end. Can you explain that? Is there anything in particular about that part of the world, the Northwest, that produces people who become great coaches?
I'm not sure. I think it's probably unfair on those two to compare me with Andy Farrell and Sean Edwards at this moment in time. I think to see what they've both done has been incredible. I'm a huge fan of both of them. Was fortunate enough to watch Sean play for a long time, and I was fortunate enough to play alongside Andy, and a number of times for England. So I think they've had wonderful careers, and I wish them all the best, but perhaps not when they play against us.
Have you been tapping in? Tell us how it works. Obviously, you're mates with these guys. You've got a huge amount of mutual respect, but they're not going to give away too many trade secrets. But I imagine you've been learning from these kind of guys who've set the path.
Yeah, and I think it probably goes wider than that.
Well, the players are coming back onto the field here at Kingston Park. It's Leicester Tigers that have come out first. Newcastle are going to be following. It's going to be an interesting team talk for Dave Walder, isn't it? He won't have had many opportunities to have a team talk with his team 4 tries up at half time.
What do you say? I think the more interested to say what David Walder says, keep doing the same, fellas. You don't have to do anything different. Keep doing the same. First try, the second half is so important. If the Falcons get this, they could run riot.
They can't go into their shells, or can they? If they go into their shells, that's going to ask Leicester to attack them.
Can't defend this lead, yeah. Leicester are bristling with physicality. I would guess in that change room, Leicester have had a pretty robust team talk about the way that they're playing and what they're doing, and you can see Leicester coming out for the first 10-15 minutes of this game, all guns are blazing, absolutely bristling with that physicality, that 6-2 split in the bench. I think they're going to have to change the fly half. I think we'll see Jimmy Gopperth on before much longer. He just looked really struggling to me, and trying to inject a wee bit more pace that they can. They look very leaden-footed and very clumpy.
Well, Newcastle are just starting to come out of the change rooms now. Tom Penny is coming onto the field, and his Newcastle Falcons team are coming on behind them. And Leicester Premiership Rugby this weekend, last night. Interesting night down at Kingsholm, Dean.
Yes.
Gloucester 16, Saracens 19. The man that scored the drop goal to win the game for Sarries will probably be cited during the week. Why wasn't he off?
It's a really good question. I haven't seen the instant. I saw a still of it, and it looks pretty damning, the still, but that doesn't tell the whole story. So if he does, it might throw England's plans into a little bit of disarray as well. The Six Nations round the corner.
He's got a bit of previous, hasn't he?
Yes, he has. So if he gets a ban, it will be a decent lot.
They'll fiddle it to make sure that he's okay.
Well,
that's probably what they'll do.
Let's see.
It's afternoon half time here at Kingston Park. Newcastle Falcons 28, Leicester Tigers 5. A 4:30 kick-off at Sandy Park, where the Chiefs take on Northampton Saints. And tomorrow afternoon, 3 o'clock kick-offs. Harlequins against the Sale Sharks, London Irish against Bristol Bears, and that is this weekend's Premiership. But all eyes of the rugby world in England are on Kingston Park as Brett Connon gets the second half of this Gallagher Premiership game underway. The floodlights starting to take effect now as Harry Wells brings that ball in. Taken down to ground. Carreras is the man, the littlest man on the field, probably brings one of the biggest men on the field down to ground. On the 22, Ben Youngs brings the ball back. It's in the air under a bit of pressure from De Chavez. You've got to remember Newcastle playing without Peterson for the first 7 or 8 minutes certainly of this second half. Reffels over the ball again, and Newcastle penalised. Tommy Reffel is just so good at that, and
Yep.
he doesn't go blasting in, does he? He almost goes in and takes a step back.
He's very clever in his approach work because he times his entry so effectively, doesn't he? Like you say, he doesn't blast in there. He's not trying to do anything other than get his hands on the ball, and he times when he does that so very well. That opportunity, which was, it's a split second, isn't it, to get over the ball and lamp on. He's done it 3 times this game so far. Very, very effective player.
Atkinson is on the field and he's put his left foot through that, but hasn't taken play too far up there. He's taken it from about halfway up to just inside Newcastle's 22, and they've got the rush on, and they went all in the line there. There was 2 people in the scrum half channel as the ball was thrown in, but the referee seems to be quite happy that the game is moving on at a pace, and that drive has been stopped immediately by Newcastle. Liebenberg adds himself to it. Ben Youngs' hands are on it, but Leicester are still moving forward, just ever so slowly. Newcastle are trying to repel that Tigers pack, and they've broken free now, and they're heading towards the try line.
This could be a try.
It could be a try indeed, but they're taken down to ground 2 metres short.
Advantage coming.
Well, Leicester are finishing, or starting the first half the same way as they finished the second half, and Newcastle giving penalties away in their own 5-metre area, and the try has been given, and that's Ollie Chesham, I think, who stretches out a big hand and gets the ball. Is it Chesham or is it Liebenberg? I think it might actually be Liebenberg who's got stretched out and got that ball down on the ground.
That's it.
No, it is Ollie Chesham. I was right first time. So Ollie Chesham's the one that gets the Leicester side of the scoreboard ticking, and again that's started by Tommy Reffel, who's showing his international class out there, isn't he? Yeah,
when the penalty led to the field position and eventually the drive, and Leicester doing what they need to do to get back in this game, and that's scoring very, very quickly at the start of the second half. A minute and a half or so on the clock when that try was scored, Smithy. Really, really quick work. Newcastle got to dig in now. It's very important they don't leak another one quickly.
Well, it's 2 minutes of the half gone. Atkinson's got the ball on the tee, 17 metres from the right-hand touchline. It's the right side of the field for a left-footed kicker, and he's just eyeing that up. Hopefully, from his point of view, his standing foot will be okay. And Carreras comes forward. Referee says he's got to get back, and Atkinson steps forward, strikes it, and it went through the middle. It didn't look comfortable, did it?
It didn't look comfortable. I thought that might have drifted past the outside upright this side, Smithy, but both assistant referees had the flags up.
One thing in Newcastle's favour, we talked about it at half-time off air. Newcastle at half-time were more than 3 scores ahead because Atkinson missed that first conversion. So, you know, there's no panic from Newcastle. They've just got to work their way back into this game and get Peterson back on the field. Yeah, and I think important when they're taking the ball into close quarters that they get runners alongside to clear out effectively, Smithy. They don't want to get give away penalties and give an easy in. Brett Connon gets the game restarted, taken by Harry Wells, heads back towards Carreras again, smashes into the Argentine wing, who's held down on the floor. Looks like he's trying to get up, but he's not being allowed to. Ben Youngs bringing the ball back. Tom Penny is across there on the left wing. The slot given up by Carreras, and that ball is in the air towards Tom Penny, who takes it cleanly. Well, looks like he's going to give it to Brett Connon. Just chips it over the top. That ball is going to be bouncing. Where's it going to bounce? It bounces into the hands of Tom Penny, and he's into space. Can he get round the outside? Oh, that was Ben Youngs, but he can't. Ben Youngs brings him down to ground. The ball is there for Newcastle. Sam Stewart moves it to the left into the hands of Blamire, who's smashed down in the tackle. Leicester's defence has just gone up a couple of notches, hasn't it? As you'd expect. Yeah, that physicality. Carl Ferns takes the ball from Stewart, doesn't make many yards forward. The ball is on the floor. Stewart again keeps the ball in the short channel towards the left-hand side of the field. Blamire juggles with it, but hangs onto it. Newcastle trying to work the clock down into the hands of Callum Chick from Brett Connon. He's a little bit high, but he's managed to get down to ground on the 22, directly in front of the post, towards the left-hand side. Brett Connon feeds it on to, that is Radwan, looking for work off this right wing, across there on the left-hand side of the field. Stewart into the hands of Blamire. Blamire head down, smashes into waiting Leicester defenders. Stewart is there again, on to Tom Penny. Carl Ferns moves it on to Callum Chick, but that was easy to read. Ball is on the floor. They're trying to move this ball away while Newcastle get the penalty. Newcastle have managed to soak that penalty pretty well. Tom Penny just looks for the penalty and he's going to be taken down to ground. Referee gives it. A little bit of pressure there, but Newcastle knew what they were doing, didn't they? And they just soaked that penalty up. And Newcastle are trying to move the ball. Tell me if I'm wrong. They're trying to move the ball on one more phase than you'd expect to try and get Reffel out of the game. Yes, they are. Yeah. Two passes out, trying to get the ball out of that into the danger area. They know how powerful this Leicester side is around the breakdown. They're just trying to stretch them and make them work harder to get across the field. And both wingers starting to work in tandem, which I like to see as well. Well, Tom Penny and Brett Connon were standing there talking to the referee. they're soaking out as many seconds off this clock as they possibly can.
Dead right.
And then they've decided to take the points.
Absolutely right. They want the clock burned down because they need to get the player back. Greg Peterson in the bin to take the full time for this penalty kick. That will ease the stress a little bit for playing with 14.
Well, it's directly in front of the posts. It's about 26, 27 metres off, and there's 2.5 minutes on the yellow card. Tom Penny must have been asking our referee how long there was to go. So 2.5 more minutes, and Newcastle will be back up to a full complement. And Leicester are going to make their first replacement because number 19 is getting ready to come on the field. So that will be Cameron Henderson, Scotland 20s player who came from Glasgow in 2020. He's hitting tackle bags in front of the East stand. Brett Connon steps forward, strikes that ball. That is straight through the middle.
As you'd expect.
So Brett Connon gets a penalty, and that penalty makes it a 31-12 game. And that was on, say, 4 minutes, so we'll say 46 minutes of the game gone. And we've got about a minute and a half now, and that is who's gone off. That is number 5 that's gone off. So Callum Green, in his 100th game for the Leicester Tigers, goes off. And Cam Henderson, the Scot, comes on. Ball's in the air from Atkinson. That's got to Chavez underneath it. Takes that ball 2 hands beautifully. Down the ground immediately inside. Newcastle's 22, under pressure from Chesham. Sam Stewart taking his time at the back of that caterpillar, and he's going to be under pressure, but he moves the ball on to Carl Ferns again. They're playing cute here, aren't they, to try and soak the time off this clock. I said it just a couple of minutes ago, but they really are. They didn't kick that off the field. They didn't allow Leicester to run back at them. It's going to go off the field now, but they've soaked out another 30 seconds of the clock.
Yeah, and they want Greg Peterson on, I think, for the next line out, which might just happen if they've judged that right.
Well, if Mr. Makepeace is on, it'll happen. If there's a penalty,
he's on. Yeah, that's really good timing by Newcastle. That's really sensible play.
And another Newcastle player comes on, and it is Carl Ferns, who's leaving the field.
Had a good game, Carl Ferns.
And Tom Marshall, who's coming on. So Tom Marshall, Newcastle's number 20, comes on, and it is Carl Ferns, whose work for the afternoon is done. He's had 3 good games in a row, hasn't he?
He's what he is.
Bath and this afternoon.
He's a beast of a man. He'll carry and carry and carry and carry. Tom Marshall offers something a little bit different, not quite that level of physicality, to be honest, but he'll give a little bit more pace getting round and towards the breakdown. And Tom Penny is having long conversations with our assistant referee this side, which it isn't Wayne Fowler, it says, but that's definitely not Wayne Fowler.
I was going to say, I didn't recognise him before. I know it's supposed to be Wayne Fowler, but
that's definitely not Wayne Fowler.
That's what I thought earlier, but I didn't like to say anything, so I don't know Wayne very well, I've got to say.
No, I know him for quite a few years. Of course, he came from Northumberland, so unless he's dyed his hair and changed his body shape, it's definitely not Wayne Fowler.
New Year's resolution, is it?
Could be.
Leicester win that line out. I think it was Wells that got hands on that ball, and as we said earlier, 6-2 bench for Leicester, so they're going to be changing these forwards around and stressing Newcastle even more than they have done already. That's fresh legs come off the bench. Sorry, Dean.
That's good work by Adam Brocklebank, just getting in the way of that more and being a nuisance.
Well, Atkinson's passing line was cut off there by Maroney, and he's had to step back inside. He's done that pretty well. Ben Youngs picks it up, moves it on to Cam Henderson. Henderson hits the floor. Tom Marshall gets out the way. Ball is back into the hands of Matt Scott. Eventually, it finds number 11, Harry Simmons, who steps off his left foot into Tom Penny. But it's not Tom Penny, it's somebody else with a headband on. That's Maroney, who went off the field for that knock on the head earlier. It's Maroney that got in there, made the tackle. Ben Youngs moves it on. Atkinson across to Scott, moves it on to Liebenberg, gives the dummy, steps back inside, taken down by Callum Chick and Sebastian de Chavez. Ben Youngs is there again, moves it on to Harry Wells, who was held onto and taken down to ground. Ben Youngs is there yet again, ball's in the midfield, changes direction, moves it towards the right hand side, shoveled on. And that is Simmons that's gone across to the right hand side of the field. That's a lovely tackle by Newcastle defensively, wide out on the left. And Sale, Leicester Tigers ran out of ideas there. They had nowhere to go.
5-6 phases, pretty lateral, made probably 4 metres. Newcastle's defence terrific again, but just a lack of incision, a lack of pace. All the power there, but not going anywhere. Really good defensive situation for Newcastle there. And ends up with a line out to Newcastle.
Well, it ends up with a worry because Carreras is the one that's down on the ground there, and he's getting treatment, and it's his right ankle that looks like it's a problem. And he doesn't look very comfortable, I've got to say.
He doesn't. He's been super today, hasn't he?
Yeah. Well, it'll be Elliott, Abata-Inbo that'll come on the field.
Not really seen him play on the wing, but I guess he can.
He said he's supposed to came as a winger, come full-back, yeah.
Did he? Right, okay.
Well, Maroney's across there just having words with his Argentine mate. And he jogs back. He doesn't seem too concerned, but I guess there's nothing much he could do. Whatever the
got it on the big screen here now. Try to jump the tackle a little bit, to be honest, Smithy.
That's a lovely tackle by Carreras,
And I can't really see any issue with the ankle, to be quite honest, but it does look like
it's an ankle or a calf. He's stretching.
Jimbo is warming up.
Yeah. And he's not going off, that's for certain. He's
I don't
staying
think
on the
you
field. Yeah, and we've been told Peterson's back on the field. We got that earlier.
Yeah.
Dave Walder's picture comes up on the big screen. He looks concerned. It could be a bit more.
Lovely
take by the
take
Chavez.
again.
He just wrapped one hand around that ball and brought it down. It's into the hands of Blamire eventually, because Leicester did make a mess of Newcastle trying to get that ball away. But what brilliant work in the line out by the Chavez. His hands just wrapped around that ball.
He's just magnificent. He almost prefers taking the ball with one hand than two, doesn't he?
He seems to.
Yeah.
Carreras lets that ball into the hands of Potter, brings him down to ground. 5 metres inside the Leicester half, hugging the right-hand touchline. That ball is moved on, and that is Cam Henderson that takes the contact as Leicester get back towards the halfway line. Ben Youngs is going to commit to the air. Newcastle's defence just drops back a little bit. The player in front of the ball was Harry Potter. It's in the air. It's Brett Connon that takes it, but it bounces into the hands of Tom Marshall. Marshall scragged by Leicester forwards. Ball's on the floor, and referee saying knocked on by Leicester, so it's going to be a Newcastle scrummage. Tom Marshall just couldn't get away there, could he? The ball bounced into his hands kindly as he turned to try and head forward.
Yep.
And Leicester arm came out and just dragged him down the ground. He never got an opportunity of getting legs moving.
He didn't. It just looked for a second, didn't it, that he could break away. There he goes. The little turn had to go round the corner, didn't he? And then got scragged.
Hands on him there. And, well, that could have gone anywhere between Harry Potter and Brett Connon that went in the air. And that could really have gone anywhere. Carreras is now leaving the field. Abatayinbo is on. Tom Penny's gone out to the left wing. Abatayinbo's dropped into full-back. And Carreras gets a standing ovation by the Kingston Park crowd here.
So, yeah.
Absolutely. And we played 10 minutes of the second half, and we've got a 31-12 game. So 30 minutes to go. 3 converted tries Leicester Tigers need. And some, yeah, because at the moment it doesn't look like... No, 3 converted tries would do it, wouldn't it? 3 converted tries would be 21, and 21 on 12
would be 30.
33. So 3 converted tries is what they need.
And to be honest, the Falcons want to be absolutely certain of this. I'd be saying as they get any kicking chance, take the points, take the points.
Just keep the side of the scoreboard.
Don't bother getting in the corner, take the points.
Out. Yeah. Newcastle, the scrummage is outside the 22, 50 metres from the left-hand touchline. Still a lovely afternoon here in the northeast of England. Earlier kick-off makes a difference. Of course, kicking off at 2 o'clock. Penalty to Newcastle. Ball's into the hands of Orlando. Across to Radwan. Radwan lines up the first man. Gives it to Abatayinbo. Can't get away from his man. Takes steps backwards. Looks for ground, gets his knees down. He's got to be released because his knees are on the floor. Ball is with Stewart, onto Peterson, into the hands of Brett Connon. Out to Orlando, to Tom Penny. Penny comes back on a line, still on his feet, heads up towards the 10-metre line. Taken down the ground on that 10-metre line. Sam Stewart moves it across to Tom Marshall. Out to Baroni, who couldn't bring the ball in, and that is knocked forward. And the referee's going to come back for the penalty, and Maroney and the winger there is Harry Simmons. Just exchange a hug there. Obviously played together down at Leicester. Yeah. And Maroney was there, so no hard feelings at all. But this week the referee goes back for the penalty advantage. Yeah, well, rightly so as well. Yeah, that right at the edge of what would be termed advantage being over, but referee deciding, the territory had been made, and Newcastle had the ball through probably 3 phases. Go back for it right on the very edge of what you would do. Such a shame for Newcastle. They've been so clever the way they've manufactured space for their speed guys today. I think it's been absolutely superb. Credit to Mark Laycock and the attacking shape that he's got. You were talking about the first 10 minutes being eyeballs out from Leicester. Well, 10 minutes have gone. And it's been, one try for Chesham, converted by Atkinson. So it's 31-12. Well, Ben Youngs is going off, so Jack Van Poorvliet will be coming on, wearing number 22. Had a different dynamic, won't he, from Ben Youngs, much more sparky player. The pace will go around the base. That is Sam Stewart. Newcastle win the line out. It's to Orlando. He bounces the first man, gets taken out of the ground by the second. Reffel can't get his hands on that ball. Newcastle did well. It's back to Brett Connon, who looks for space. That space is in between. Well, Freddie Stewart's the one that gets hands on it. Harry Potter left it for him. And Stewart, in the process of running, kicks that ball back to Brett Connon. Lets it bounce once. Stewart putting pressure on Newcastle's fly half. That's a lovely kick by Brett Connon. And that is, I think that is Van Poorvliet, who's back in his own 22. Returns the compliment. Newcastle play kick tennis all afternoon. If the scoreboard stays the way it is. Brett Connon hammering the ball back down. It's dying, but Van Poorvliet comes out the 22 and returns the compliment. It's in the air. Brett Connon takes that ball cleanly. 5 or 6 steps forward under a bit of pressure. Returns the compliment. Van Poorvliet again is back. This time he's outside the 22. He's marked it. What's the referee? He's marked it. He's outside the 22.
It looked like to me, he may have just been in.
That's Newcastle ball.
No, really?
What's he said? Is that offside? Not retiring behind the kick?
It must be. Wow. That's all it can be, Smithy.
Put it in the corner. I wouldn't take the points here. I'd put it in the corner. Seriously. I know what you say.
Yeah, I would take
taking the points. If Newcastle put them in the corner and score a try, that's the game.
I think it's the game now, I'll be absolutely honest. Unless there's an implosion, which I can't see from Newcastle, so not retiring.
Obstruction. Stepped across the line of the chaser.
Really? I was really puzzled, but that's a tremendous spot then.
Well, the referee isn't giving the penalty there. He's coming back. Why is he coming back? Is it not where the ball bounced?
It should be. It's where, no, if it's stepping in front, it's where the obstruction occurred.
Is it?
You know, you've got me have to go back to my law book. That's what he's gone back to, isn't it?
Yeah. I just thought in any kicking offence like that, it had to be where the ball bounced.
Well, yes, thinking of my laws, I think you are right. So I'd have to revisit the law book. They've gone back. Newcastle, I guess, would have had the option. But so no, that's a great kick. What a
fantastic kick!
What a kick! What
Absolutely,
a kick.
Take the kick from his own halfway line, nearly to the 5 metre line. That took out of the equation going for posts. And he's absolutely nailed the kick.
And even the Leicester defenders on the right-hand side watched that ball sail over the heads. You don't see that very often. It was kicked so far, it took them by surprise. That is truly magnificent.
Going to be a 5 metre line out. Blamaya's got to hit his man. It is the Chavez going back, takes it two-handed. Newcastle drive to Chavez towards the try line of the Leicester Tigers. It goes up on the left-hand side. Sam Stewart just steps back. Gary Graham is in there. Newcastle driving Leicester back. They're creaking. Blamaya. Try Newcastle! Jamie Blamaya. You could say that from here. We're 50, 60 metres away.
Yep.
And you saw the ball in Blamaya's hands as it went forward. And as soon as he touched the line, he dropped on it. What a great drive.
What a great try. Silly penalty for Leicester to give away. It looked like it wouldn't be a promising position for Newcastle round about 45, 47 metres out. Terrific kick and a great, well-constructed forward drive by Newcastle. Blamaya doing McGuigan.
Wow, I'm going to use that word again.
Yeah.
I never ever expected. I thought we were going to have a really tight game here, and we still might. But
we're not. The game's well gone now, Smithy, I'm afraid. And Leicester staged a remarkable revival. It looks to me, looking at their body language, they look like a well-beaten side now.
But it just reinforces the point, doesn't it? Newcastle have got to keep on playing.
Yes, they do.
They can't go in the shells.
They've been really patient. I've been really impressed with the organisation. They've been patient in the kicking game. Generally, that's been even. The contact work, the scrum's been really solid. The line-out's been perfect, I think, all afternoon.
Yep.
The contact work once or twice nicked off the floor by Tommy Raffel. The defensive structure really good, and the workspace really cleverly in attack.
Lugoli and Molly Paula's coming on the field, which means that Brocklebank will be leaving. Brett Cunnan steps forward, strikes that ball. It's on its way. Dead-eye Dick.
All day long.
Straight through the middle.
All day long.
And we now have a 38-12 game at Kingston Park. And Molly Paula is on as Brocklebank leaves.
That's not going to weaken the scrummage in any way, shape or form, is it?
And there are replacements on for Leicester as well. So for Leicester, number 3 is off, Dan Cole, and number 18 is on. And that is Joe Hayes that's come on the field. And yes, we've got the scrum half change as well. So that is Van Porfleet, that's on for Ben Youngs a little while ago. And that's all the replacements at the moment. And Newcastle have recovered the kick-off. Sam Stewart has put the ball in the air under pressure from Chesham, and that has got Stewart underneath it, but he's smashed down to ground immediately by Tom Penny, who's having a great game this afternoon.
He is, yeah, super game, Tom.
And that ball is being taken forward by, I think that's Charlie Clare. Back from Van Porfleet to Atkinson. Atkinson's got that ball in the air. Brett Cunnan takes the ball.
Come on, fellas.
And that was Adam Radwan that got in the way. Newcastle have managed to keep that ball infield alive. And Leicester have got hands on it. Quite rightly, the referee allows that to play on.
Yeah, good
Number 17, Afeni Lietigaga, is on the field, which means that James Cronin will have left the field for Leicester. It's into midfield. That is eventually into the hands of Stewart, who puts his right foot through it. That's got Batayinbo running across. Batayinbo gets hands on that ball, bounced by the Leicester player, that is Harry Potter, wide out on the left-hand side of Newcastle's defensive shape. Newcastle taking their time. Sam Stewart gets there. Leicester putting a bit of pressure on Newcastle. They've got players that are going to smash into this three-man pod. It's Molly Paula, former Leicester player, of course, a while ago now. who smashes into the Leicester players as they come forward. They're playing the game 2 metres from the Newcastle try line, wide out on the left-hand side of the field. If you know Kingston Park, directly under the big screen, that's in the north-east corner. Sam Stewart gets the ball in the air.
Gets it
that's
off.
a relieving kick, and that's a good kick from Newcastle scrum half.
Do you know what the Leicester Road, Smithy, would have smashed that breakdown? That was about 2 metres from Newcastle's try line. With 2 players in from Newcastle, the Leicester team of old would have absolutely torn into that breakdown, and they stood off it.
And I'm getting more replacements, Dean. That's why I'm hesitating. Sean Jansen is on the field, and also Joe Hayes is on the field. So James Cronin's gone, Dan Cole has gone, Harry Wells has gone, Callum Green's gone, and Nefi Leitigaga is on the field as well. And we're down to
Jimmy Gobbuth just left.
Mika Ilioni would be making his debut if he comes on.
Right.
And Joe Tawafete isn't on the field yet as well, the hooker.
So there's
into midfield, that is number 21, Sean Jansen, who played in the Premiership Cup down at Twelford Road, who's on the field. Ball is taken on by Charlie Clare, driven back by Newcastle players. He's got to let that go. That's Jimmy Blumaya, who nearly gave a penalty away there. Newcastle's defence just shuffling across, and that is Brett Connon that manages to get hands on the Leicester players. He tried to get round the outside of him, wide out on the left-hand side of Newcastle's defensive shape. I think that is ball on the floor again, picked up by the big prop, Nefi Leitigaga. Van Porfleet moves it across to Reffel. Reffel steps off his left foot, back into contact. Van Porfleet's there again, moves it on to Atkinson. Into the hands eventually of Freddie Stewart. Goes for the line, taken down to ground 5 metres from that line. Van Porfleet picks, moves it across to, I think that's the replacement prop, Joe Hayes. Takes the contact, 6 or 7 metres from the Newcastle try line. Van Porfleet changes direction and moves it to the middle. Liebenberg moves it on to Reffel. Reffel wrapped up by Newcastle players immediately. Van Porfleet keeps it moving towards the middle part of the field. Newcastle's defence might have been a little bit early there. Callum Chick looked like he brought the man down without the ball, but the referee's happy to allow play to go on. Leicester still recycling the ball. Again, going to move it to the right, into the hands of Joe Hayes yet again, taken down to ground. Newcastle committing men to the floor. Have Newcastle nicked that? Newcastle have nicked that? No, they haven't. I thought Newcastle through JB Blumaya got hands on that ball, but it isn't Blumaya, it's Callum Chick. I thought it was number 2, but it's number 7. That's Blumaya's there as well, actually.
Yeah,
so numbers 2 and 7 were the 2 that were on the floor. But
I think the referee dictated the ruck had already formed. One player over the ball now, of course, constitutes the ruck. He said it's already formed, and then the hands came in there after Smithy. So just a little late, but they will not be disappointed with that, although Newcastle do know what is coming next.
Well, they
they've
know
got to
what's
be
coming
careful.
next, but Michael Young is coming on, another former Leicester player, of course, who had a spell down there before he went off to Bath. And both McGuigan and Michael Young, it never really worked for them at Leicester, did it? It just didn't. No. They didn't fit in. I think that's probably the way of putting it.
Yeah, I think smaller fish in a really big pond, weren't they? So, and we all wish, George McGuigan all the best at Gloucester. I think he started last night, didn't he?
He did, yeah. The lineup wasn't so brilliant, but that'll come, I'm sure.
It will.
And Newcastle, Michael Young is on. I'm ticking that. We're into the last quarter of the game. There are now less than 19 minutes to go. The scoreline is 38-12. Newcastle ahead. That's taken by Liebenberg. Back to Nefi Leitigaga. Van Porfleet moves it on. Newcastle's defence is still strong. Peterson involved in the tackling. Joe Hayes takes the next contact. Charlie Clare is involved. Van Porfleet moves it on. Newcastle's defence just levels Leicester players back, and Newcastle penalised again, not releasing the man, I think is what the signal is.
So that early tackle, the signal is the same. Smithy difficult to tell sometimes, but yeah, punting in front of the sticks, I'm sure. From here, Leicester will probably scrimmage, because it's not an easy kick to find it right in the 10 metre, the 5 metre line. Or tap and go, yeah.
But the scrummage has been pretty solid, but what they're going to do.
But really interesting, Leicester before that last play, they went off the top, dropped the ball, little drop ball off the top and around the corner, which you would have thought their strength is driving it.
Leitigaga picks and drives, ball's on the floor. Van Porfleet moves it to the left into the hands of Sean Jansen. Are they across the line? Leicester Tigers can't get that ball down. They can't get it down. Held up. Goal line dropped out. Newcastle's defence was absolutely superb, and I've got to say Tom Foley was exactly there, on his knees looking, and the ball didn't get down to ground.
Yeah, and just look at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Newcastle players around that player, that Leicester player on the deck, and
Big Trev's the one that got underneath him, I think.
Yeah, 3 Leicester players around it, 5 Newcastle players surrounding that.
Maroney's
really
underneath
well.
it, as well as Trevor Davison.
Yeah.
They did incredibly well there. And Brett Connon's got the goal line dropped out. We're down to 17 and a half minutes on the clock. We've got a 38-12 game. Leicester trying to claw themselves back into it. And this really should be game, set and match for Newcastle, but there are still 17 and a half minutes left. Brett Connon gets the game restarted. Not a long kick, it's taken by Liebenberg, 10 metres outside Newcastle's 22. Peterson involved in the tackle. Leicester players commit to the floor. It's moved on to Leitigaga, onto Atkinson, and that's a poor pass from Atkinson, but it's brought in by Matt Scott, and that's a kick by Matt Scott. That's got Tom Penny running back towards his own try line. He has to field that ball and then put his right foot through it, and that's taken play up the left-hand touch line. Is it going to go into touch? Oh, it's a lovely kick. It bounced and came back in the direction that it came, but a little bit to the left, and the Leicester player's face was absolutely aghast as it bounced into touch.
The bounce of a rugby ball, isn't it? I mean, that could have been a really difficult position for the Falcons. Tom having to react really quickly, right-footed kick down the touchline. A pretty awful bounce back from whence it came, but straight into touch, and a clearing kick of some 45 metres in the end.
Trevor Davison has left the field. Palfreman is on. One-handed tap back by Leicester in the middle of that line, and that has eventually moved on to Sean Jansen. Van Porfley takes it back towards the right. Atkinson moves it on into the hands of Potter. Potter taken down the ground on halfway by Newcastle's defence, which is strong. What's the referee indicating? What's he indicating, Dean? What does that mean?
I'm not certain. Is he saying a little knock on the ground, Smithy?
Well, he was moving his shoulders and his arms.
Yeah.
So if it's a knock on, it's a Newcastle scrummage. But I'm not certain it was a knock on, to be honest.
Everybody seems to be. It's an injury.
Tom Penny's getting.
It's an injury.
The ball's in the hands of Van Porfley. I can only think there was an injury, and the referee stopped the game.
Is there a head contact? I think coming up. Is there a head contact coming up?
No, he's just been saying he pulled him there. I think Newcastle were claiming the penalty, and the referee is saying that they pulled him there. So Newcastle pulled a Leicester player onto the wrong side, by all accounts.
He stopped the play for safety reasons, because it must have been a head contact for Tom Penny, I think, Smithy, because there's no penalty. He's not signalled anything.
Well, Matthew Dalton is coming on the field, and it is Gary Graham who's leaving the field.
Well done,
so
Gary
Graham goes off. Matthew Dalton comes on, normally a second row, but he's played 2 or 3 games for Newcastle in the back row over that Christmas period. And so Dalton is on, Gary Graham is off.
And I'm pretty certain that's where he'll slot into, isn't it?
Yeah, he's on the back row, he's got the blind side. And
extra bit of power, won't he, around the contact area.
And that is Leitigaga that was getting treatment at the same time that Tom Penny was. So Tom Penny's white headband has now been replaced with a black one. The clock's been stopped on just under 16 minutes. And the public address announcer's catching up with the replacements. And Matthew Dalton being confirmed as on the field as Gary Graham leaves. And again, Gary, like Carl Ferns, he's had 3 long games. He played all the game at Bath, he played all the game against Sale, and 3/4 of the game here, and he's come back all firing, hasn't he?
He's come back all firing from a long injury layoff, hasn't he? So he's put in a typical Gary Graham performance. He was ever so good down at Bath. Should have had a try. Wonderful step down at Bath from that breakaway. Really good step for a big man, and couldn't quite get the ball down.
If he'd gone down on his front and slid over rather than his back, that would have been a try.
He was turned actually when he was going in.
That's easy for us to say from the press box, isn't it? The ball is on the floor, and it's a free kick to Leicester, and they go quickly, and it's into the hands of Freddie Stewart. Moves a forward pass. It's got to be forward. And the referee spots that. And the referee spotted that because the assistant referee was nowhere near to give a decision. And so Mr. Foley got that one absolutely. We were right in line with that, and that was definitely forward.
Easy for us. Good spot by Tom Foley. I guess, I don't know if the assistant referee did pipe anything, but Foley had it anyway. A really good spot by Tom Foley. Easy to give. And that's Leicester, isn't it? At the minute, they're just disjointed.
Yeah.
They don't have a fluency. The power game hasn't quite worked.
That's just anxious there, wasn't it? Simmons just got ahead of the ball carrier, and it's Freddie Stewart. You know he's going to get in front of you. You know he's going to give you something to chase, but he just got too anxious and got in front of him.
Freddie Stewart had a lot of room to work in there and gave the pass really early as well, didn't he?
Well, the scrums are being brought together, and Callum Chick has dropped into number 8. And his feet are going to be on the halfway line, 17 metres from the right-hand touchline.
I'd love to see this little pick-up from Callum here, and Adam Radwan, who's standing directly behind the scrum, coming around on the right-hand side channel.
If he gets a one-on-one with Simmons, he'll skin him.
He'll skin him, exactly my thought. Here he comes. Can't do it now, because the scrum's wheeled round, same side put in. But I think that's what they're looking at. It's just getting Adam Radwan working onto this blind side, setting up a one-on-one. If Callum Chick can give that pop pass to him, they'll work that one-on-one.
Well, Brett Cunning's talking to Adam Radwan. Newcastle made a change in the midfield. Tian Schoeman's gone to inside centre, and Mateus Orlando has left the field. And Newcastle now playing with effectively 2 fly halves, but Schoeman is playing at that inside centre channel. They'll be pretty happy with that. Smithy can kick the ball all day long if they want to, because they're saying to Leicester, come on, try and score 20 odd points in the remaining 13 and 14 minutes. Just under 14 minutes. 38-12 to score. You listen to Gallagher Premiership Rugby on the home and North East Sport, BBC Radio Newcastle at Kingston Park in the north east of England on a beautiful winter's afternoon. See Newcastle 38, Leicester Tigers 12 with 13 and a half minutes to go. Michael Young moves it to Brett Connon, to Adam Radwan, running across the field towards the left, into the hands of, who's that? That's Tom Penny, of course, on the left wing. And the Bataillon dropped into fullback. Ball is there for Michael Young. Leicester all offside in that midfield area.
I'm just thinking that.
And they're all offside by about a metre, but every one of them was in line, so nothing's been done by the officials. Michael Young to Bataillon gives the dummy, sets back across the field into the hands of Brett Connon, kicks it down the middle. That's got Stewart and Atkinson moving towards it. Atkinson's the one that gets hands on it, left-footed kick. Is going to find the Bataillon, which it does, outside his 22, heads back towards the 10-metre line, steps inside Stewart, he's into space, taken down to ground by the second line of Leicester Tigers defence. The ball is picked up, Michael Young looks for a gap, and he finds a gap, can't get away from the second Leicester defender who scragged him, and Maroney picks the ball, passing lines cut off, so he takes the contact. Michael Young is there.
Lots of numbers right, but
they're offside a little bit again in that midfield area. A Bataillon ball on to Schoolman to Blamire, on to Dalton smashes into Simmons, in fact it was Atkinson who was there. Michael Young gets there, ball's back to Palfreman, that was Brett Connon taken down after the ball had gone. Radwan looking for space, can he find it? Ball's moved on, it's into the hands of Maroney, a chip over the top, back in his hand, ball's bouncing around, it's still in play, the assistant referee's flag on the far side of the field. Jack Makepeace says it came off a leg. Where's he going to put the flag? It's a Newcastle line out. Newcastle have got a line out with 12 minutes on the clock.
Wow.
About 7 metres from the Leicester, I keep wanting to say Sale Sharks, from the Leicester
Tigers.
It's
the red shirts, isn't it?
They've got me confused anyway.
Yeah.
I'm easily confused, as you know, a bear of little brain. But it's going to be a Newcastle line out, and that is, in fact, it's actually 5 metres from the...
I've just got to say, again, sorry to interrupt, mate, but the attacking shape there, Adam Radwan is buzzing around. He hasn't had a lot of ball tonight, but he's made himself available and he's trying to find that outside line. He's sucking people in. This has been, attacking-wise and defensively, well, just overall, a tremendous performance by a side. After last weekend, you did think they might come in a little bit
feeling sorry for themselves.
But
against the side, sorry, I thought you were talking about Newcastle feeling sorry for themselves after last weekend down at their back.
Well, possibly
you thought
so.
Tigers would be absolutely firing, but they haven't. It hasn't worked out like that.
They've tried to fire and Newcastle have stopped them. I think that's the key.
Well, they're looking at the big screen for something.
Is it a high contact? It is. There you go. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
I don't think anything wrong with that either. But,
no, and the clear out looks fine as well, so I can't see anything wrong at all with that.
So Leicester number 13 is the man that's maybe in the frame. Matt Scott, I think, is what they're...
Just come and have a look at the big screen though, so TMO's advised.
What we saw there is, number 7 from Leicester is the one that's been identified. So Tommy Reffel is the one who could be in trouble. And he doesn't look very happy, does Reffel, I've got to say, and you wouldn't be if you were the one that was being fingered. You'd look even worse if it was actually you that had caused a problem.
There we go.
And here we go, and what is going on there? Oh, that's head on head, isn't it? That's head on head.
I'm afraid it is.
And I don't think there was any malice in that at all, but his head was high, and him and Tom Penny clashed heads.
Tom Penny just ducked a little there, coming around the corner, but the challenge is high, and he could have got his body angle lower.
His arms went to the ball, which meant his neck and his head were in line with Tom Penny's neck and head.
I think that could be a yellow rather than a red. It could potentially be a red.
Nothing would surprise me, mate. To be honest, nothing would surprise me.
I mean, we've seen it twice there from a long distance away. It's certainly going to be a card, I think, but I suspect it might be yellow. Tom Penny did duck a little in mitigation. Here we go. See the colour. It's a yellow card. Yeah, it's probably right.
So that could easily have been a red card, but it's yellow.
Yeah,
and it's Reffel that's leaving the field.
I have to say the protocols in terms of head contact are pretty good if you follow them through about mitigation.
People
body
don't
angle.
understand the protocols, mate.
They don't.
We'll have this discussion in the car and we fall out every week about it.
We never fall out.
People do not understand the protocols because they don't have to. They pay their money to come and watch the game, and they aren't going to talk about level 3s and mitigation for this. And it's just head on head. That's it. End of.
But if you do that, then there'll be an awful lot of red cards.
It wasn't even a penalty. Why is there no penalty?
He's only carded him.
So why didn't Newcastle get a penalty for the high tackle?
I think Newcastle elected to one have the line.
Well, they've just lost the contact in the scrimmage. That was a bit of a dumb decision, wasn't it?
I think they must have. I'm surprised they didn't just take the points to burn the clock down and preserve.
Why didn't we get a penalty?
I assume it was a penalty that we kicked into the corner.
No, they didn't kick it in the corner.
Okay.
He just went for the original line out that Jack Makepeace had his flag up for. Before that.
Jimmy Gopperth.
Jimmy Gopperth
anyway.
is
Change
on.
the subject altogether.
Change the subject altogether, probably the best idea. Jimmy Gopperth is now on the field. It is going to be a scrummage to the Leicester Tigers. Newcastle scrummage has been solid, Reffels off, so...
And it's broke my 12-year duck tonight about not having the scrummage complete in the first engagement. The first one did.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. You celebrate that later by buying me a drink.
Really?
Yeah.
All right then.
Yeah. It's Jim's birthday as well, so you can buy the second ones.
Oh yeah, Jim's definitely in the chair.
And that is fed in by Van Poortvliet, straight into the second row. Newcastle are putting pressure on, and they've managed to move that scrummage. It's not a penalty that way, referee.
I tended to agree with you. It looked like Newcastle got that secondary surge on, didn't he? The body weight sort of shifted up and down, then Newcastle went forward.
Why did they get penalised?
So I think that's pretty harsh. But we are a long way away.
I spoke to 5 people
Yeah.
in the press room before the game about the scrummage laws, and not one of them has a clue what goes on. Now, what happened there, irrespective of anything else, the scrum was solid, it wasn't going anywhere, and Newcastle got a nudge right across the front row.
It did dip, the front rows did dip. I guess what he's given it for is Newcastle taking it down from that second surge, but how you judge that, I've no idea.
10 minutes to go. 38-12, Newcastle ahead on the scoreboard. Leicester win the line out on their own 10-metre line, right-hand side of the field. Van Poortvliet comes forward. He's been told he's got to start thinking about using it. One finger goes in the air from a referee, Tom Foley. He brings the ball back, he puts it in the air. That's got Tom Penny coming forward. Harry Potter puts pressure on him, but Tom Penny takes that ball beautifully and sets off towards the 10-metre line, smashes into Mark Atkinson, sends him backwards on his backside. The ball's available for Michael Young. It is going to be Dalton that takes that short pass from his scrum half, takes the contact, but Newcastle lose 2 metres. Michael Young's going to commit to the air this time. Tom Penny gets back. For a minute I thought he was going to join the contact there, but he's gone back to the left wing.
We know how much you like him doing that.
You've been taking medicine again?
Yes.
All right. Ball's
Don't
in the
medicine.
air. The Scottish medicine. Ball's in the air, fielded by Jimmy Gopperth. It's moved across the field. That's Matt Scott into the hands of, eventually, that is Freddie Stewart. Radwan chases him down. Back inside to Van Poortvliet. Michael Young across to take down Matt Scott. Van Poortvliet again, who gets away from Newcastle defenders. Taken down by Tom Marshall. In fact, it wasn't. That was Tom Penny that took him down to ground. De Chavez struggling to get back to his feet. Penalty against Newcastle directly in front of the post. The ball is whipped across. That's forward at the end. So they're going to come back for the penalty advantage. We've got 9 minutes to go on the clock. Newcastle would really have to implode here for them not to win this game now. But there is still time, I guess. 9 minutes, 38-12, and it's taken quickly.
Don't say that often.
And that is into the hands of Freddie Stewart. Moved it out to Jimmy Gopperth. Gopperth in the corner. That is a try for the former Falcon. And it's not... Newcastle wouldn't have wanted to commit that, especially with Leicester down to 14 men. But if they don't get anybody else injured and they win the game this afternoon, they'll take that.
The game's well won by this stage. And quick thinking by Leicester. Jimmy Gopperth, with all his experience, he's 39 and a bit years. Hanging out wide on the wing, calling for the ball. Quick tap, two passes, and Gopperth in the corner. Decent finish, actually. Had a rider tackle, did well.
That ball's in the air, and that is
great kick. Great
Atkinson.
kick.
Gets the extras.
But too little, too late for the Tigers, I'm afraid. Newcastle will be absolutely light at 19-point margin with less than 8 minutes left, Smithy.
Well, 38-19 is the score, and I'm being told for Leicester, number 2 is off and 16 is on, so that means that Charlie Clare's left the field and Joe Taufete is on the field, and also number 11 is off, so that is Harry Simmons that's left the field, and 23 is on. Jimmy Gopperth came on earlier, yeah, that's fine.
I've given up right. He's down. Tom Penny down with an injury.
I think there's only Elione who would be making his debut if he did come on the field, and obviously, it seems like they're protecting him to make sure he doesn't come on in a game like this.
Possibly so.
He played for Leicester down the Premiership Cup game down at Welford Road.
My view would be put him on for the last sort of 10 minutes because the game is away. You're not going to win it from here. Give him that experience.
Ball is in the air from the boots of Connon. It's fielded by Liebenberg in his own 22. Heads back towards that 22. Held up in the tackle by Charlie Madsen. Finds the grass, finds the ground. And it is going to be Van Poortvliet that will commit to the air. Newcastle have got Abatayenbo back, who's had to come forward a long way. It's a good kick by Van Poortvliet. And he manages to spin away from Harry Potter. Potter came up very quickly. Abatayenbo was coming up quickly as well, but the ball has moved back to Richard Palfreman. Takes the contact in midfield. on the 10-metre line of Leicester. Moved on to Callum Chick, who's got Leicester players all over him. Inside centre, Dan Kelly is the one that gets him down to ground. Brett Connon moves it across to Batayinbo. He's got Ollie Chesham outside him. Batayinbo stepped inside, and that really threw Matthew Dalton off his running line because he managed to get in front of him. Dalton manages to recover ground. Charlie Madison ducks his left shoulder, takes the contact. Michael Young moves it on. Tom Penny is in at fly half, on to Schoeman. Schoeman to Radwan. Radwan looks for space, can't quite get away
so nearly.
From Mark Atkinson. The ball is on the floor. Michael Young is there. Picks, moves it across to Tom Marshall. Marshall to Tom Penny, through a gap. Can he get away? Slips as he tries to get away. Ball's picked up by Palfreman. On to Charlie Madison, 15 metres from the Leicester Tigers try line. Ball moved out to Batayinbo, steps inside. Back to Maroney. Maroney, 10 metres from the line. He's into space.
Wow.
Across the line. Matthias Maroney flashed and flailed over the air. Gets the ball down. That is now game. I can rest easy.
Absolutely. I think Newcastle could have rested easily, to be brutally honest. With the end of the first half, it would have taken something quite remarkable for Leicester to come back. It has been, having said that, a quite remarkable Falcons performance. This has just got better and better and better and better. I have to say, they've put completely to the sword, this Leicester side. 2 weekends on the bounce, Leicester have been crushed.
I saw the score last weekend, Sale 40, Leicester 5, and I thought, wow.
Yeah, they had a lot of injuries, stuff can happen, so we're
if
really
Conan
good.
gets this conversion, the Newcastle 45.
45 points.
Leicester
and what's
19.
6 tries? 7 tries?
It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tries.
6 tries. Wow.
Mark Laycock.
Newcastle
Mark
scored
Laycock doesn't drink, he eats chocolate. He had a chocolate high tonight, I can tell you.
Yeah. Newcastle having the lowest number of tries scored in the Premiership have just done that record. An awful lot of damage, so it's a bad record to have, but a lot of damage straight through the middle, as you expect.
I was tempting fate, but I wrote Conan conversion down before he actually got it.
He hasn't missed one tonight, has he?
He hasn't missed one all afternoon.
I'd meant to look up his kicking stats, but interesting of Owen Farrell's kicking stats are 75%, which isn't great for a fly half, an England kicker. Brett Connons must be in the 90s. There must be in the 90s. Rarely misses a kick.
Atkinson's going to get the game restarted with less than 5 minutes to go. It's going to be a long old journey back down to the East Midlands. And that is Radwan that jumps, but Stewart gets up and picks that ball in. The ball is chipped through. Michael Young is chasing back. Will he get there? Michael Young gets there first. That's going to be a goal line dropout. Michael Young did well there. He's been borne down by 2 Leicester players, putting him under massive pressure.
Yeah, the old legs had to work hard for Michael Young there, didn't they, to get back, had to turn and do that 20-metre sprint back.
That was a lovely take. You can see why Freddie Stewart does that so well for England. He's a big, tall boy.
He is,
just jumped in the air. Radwan got nowhere near that ball in the air.
Lovely kick, wasn't it, as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Just chipped it through. Newcastle, Michael Young, just on a good running line. He just had to go straight towards the ball. The ball didn't deviate. If it had gone either way, that would have been a Leicester try, but it went straight in line. Michael Young dived on it first, and it is Brett Connon, who's just getting some treatment from the physio. And the clock has stopped on 4 minutes 21.
I'll get Brett Connon off, to be quite honest. Just protect him. I think he's one of the most valuable players to the Falcons.
Newcastle have used all the replacements, mate. All the replacements are on.
I think that's largely irrelevant, I'll be honest, Smithy. If he's got the slightest doubt for next week, get him off.
Put Schoeman into fly off and protect him, maybe. But
26 points. They're not going to score that in 4 minutes.
Well, he's going to kick. No, he's got the ball in hand. He must be all right. I think that was a showbiz needing a treatment.
It might be a rest. Don't blame him for that at all.
Well, less than 5 minutes to go. 4.5 minutes. And ball is kicked from Brett Connon. That's going to find Liebenberg, who takes it, then moves towards the right immediately, taken down to ground. And that was Maroney that brought him down there. The prop, Leatigaga, takes the contact. Van Poorvliet moves it out to Mark Atkinson. Big long pass to Matt Scott. Chipped through again by Stewart, but it runs into touch. Newcastle will be in absolutely no hurry to get this game restarted. And Stewart has been trying in this second half. He just pats Adam Radwan on the back as Radwan walks past him to take his position. I think Radwan's had a good game this afternoon. He hasn't got on the score sheet, but he's been active, and as you said earlier in commentary, he's been looking for work and looking to be comfortable on the ball.
Yes, he's come off his wing. He's trying to make opportunities. He's been unlucky on a couple of occasions, hasn't he, as well?
And it is Peterson that's going to go up with 2. What is it? Well, they break away. It is de Chavez, and taking that ball down. Takes it with 2 hands, down in one hand to Sam Stewart, or Michael Young, should I say. Feeds it on to Callum Chick. Clock's down to less than 3.5 minutes to go.
Well, they can't play that out in the 22 just through driving around the corner, so this will have to go probably straight into touch, you would imagine.
I would imagine so. That is Michael Young looking for touch, and all he's done is find Stewart hugging that touch line. He sets off infield. It is Radwan that gets hands on him with Charlie Madison. Radwan rolls away, Madison leaves him alone, Van Poortvliet moves it on to Leotigaga, onto Mark Atkinson, into the hands of inside centre Dan Kelly.
Great line.
That's Harry Potter on the line. Head up as he went into the contact area, and that ball is moved right out. It's Jimmy Gopwith that's given dummies and coming back inside, and the ball's on the floor. Van Poortvliet moves it on. I think that is Sean Jansen that takes the next contact. I'm not sure Jansen or Jansen, but we'll say Jansen. Ball into the hands of Atkinson, moved across to... Eventually it is outside centre, Matt Scott that takes the contact. We're down to 2.5 minutes to go. Back to Liebenberg, back of the hand pass to Leotigaga on the 22 in midfield. Van Poortvliet moves it towards the right, Atkinson moves it on, but that is again that man Jansen that is knocked back in the tackle by Newcastle. Newcastle, I thought, had nicked that, where the referee's penalising Newcastle.
Not releasing. Held in the tackle. It was Maroney that's been felt the wrath of the referee's whistle there. And that again is that Jansen, number 21, that takes the contact. Van Poortvliet moves it on to Joe Hayes. He is taken down to ground by Callum Chick. Ball's on the floor for Van Poortvliet again. Moves it on, eventually into the hands of Mark Atkinson. He's held back by Radwan. Knocked on by Leicester. And the crowd give the big cheers. Elephant's ears to Cameron Henderson. Referee comes back for the advantage, but the clock is still ticking and we're down to less than 2 minutes. I'm just going to ask you, do you think the Leicester lack of incision in attack is down to Newcastle's defence, or Leicester just not having speed round the pitch?
I think Newcastle have defended pretty well this afternoon, and I think that comes initially from the fact that you've got Maroney and Orlando in that midfield area, who know each other so well.
Just thinking of that last sort of 4, 5, 6 passages of play, Leicester had the penalty, but they made absolutely no ground at all. They moved the ball around quite effectively.
Maroney is a really common influence in there. I just get that impression in all the games that he's played. He just settles things around, and he's always talking to people. He's talking to the fullback, he's talking to the wingers. I think he's a really common influence in there.
And you've got your international centre alongside you as well, as often as not. I think that's got to be a good thing, playing week in, week out with a guy, and then going away and playing the next level up. Against really good sides. I'm really, really impressed in every aspect of the Falcons game tonight.
Less than a minute to go. 45-19. Leicester line out. What's the referee doing? Wherever it is, the clock's still ticking. So everybody who's interested in the Newcastle Falcons are happy.
He wasn't quite happy with the set for whatever reason, Smithy. I don't know why, but it's going to be thrown again.
It's going to be 5 points for Newcastle. It's going to take them up to 26 points. As the table stands, Newcastle will be up to 7th.
They've got to hurry up under the new directives.
They haven't, man. It's paper tack.
I think you're probably right. That's no quicker than it normally is for a line out. In fact, they're
slower, to be honest.
Hang on,
the clock is down to 22
in.
seconds.
They're walking in,
And it's Leicester that win that ball in the line. I think it's Chesham that comes down the ground. Newcastle repel the drive. Leicester still playing with 14 men, remember, but Leicester have managed to jiggle it up on the right-hand side. The ball's on the floor. Van Poortvliet is looking to get hands on it, which he does. And that ball is moved on to, in a minute it'll be moved on. It's moved on to Jansen. Jansen takes the contact. Newcastle still defending. Clock's at 0. This is the last play of the game. Chesham tries to barrel his way up to the 5-metre line of Newcastle. Picked up by Van Poortvliet. Into Newcastle defenders. Taken down to ground. Referee's playing advantage to Leicester. They're moving it on. That is Leotigaga that heads towards the line. Leicester committing bodies to the contact. Van Poortvliet is there. I repeat, the clock is down to 0. This is the last play of the game, but the referee is coming back for a penalty advantage, or he was a minute ago. And Leicester still playing the game. Newcastle been told to get behind the game line. Mark Atkinson moves it on. Leicester brought down to ground again. The ball is in the hands of Van Poortvliet. Tries to wriggle his way over the line. Referee is still allowing play to continue. What's he going to do? Leicester are still camped on the line. They can't get the ball down yet again. They are picking and driving up the left-hand side. Newcastle's defence is strong. Peterson is there. They are down again, not on the line. And Newcastle are heading towards the left or the right-hand post as they attack the north end of the ground. Into the hands of Atkinson. Big long pass to Gopwith. Gopwith tries to step inside Radwan. Can't do so. Newcastle get hands on it. No, they don't. Van Poortvliet is there. Moves it on. And the man who's making his debut in the Premiership, Ilione, is on the field for the last couple of minutes. Is the referee still playing advantage? Well, his arm's out again if he's not. And Liebenberg. Newcastle's defence team is immense.
It's terrific.
There's been one mistake that's cost them a penalty, but other than that, they've been pretty solid. It's Jansen that breaks through. They get the try at the end of the game, and Colin is coming back to me, and the game is
perfect timing, almost.
Perfect timing, almost.
Yeah.
Try for Leicester Tigers, scored by number 21, Sean Jansen.
Colin, I can hear you. No, Leicester we're down to dead time. We're down to 0.
Your timing's perfect,
and
Colin.
They were absolutely perfect. And they were playing advantage after the clock had gone to 0. But Leicester have scored from the advantage, and that's given Leicester 24 points, and that is their 4th try, so that'll be a bonus point try for the Leicester Tigers. But Newcastle, on the other end of the scoreboard, have got 45 points.
You wouldn't believe it.
Newcastle have put Leicester Tigers to the sword this afternoon, and that is really a consolation try for Leicester. And Newcastle have been absolutely superb, and Dean was going to wax lyrical about the way that Newcastle have played, but he's sitting next to me dying to do so, so I'll just let him finish off.
Yeah, all right, okay. I'll try my hardest. Yeah, hat-trick first half by Mateo Carreras, one from 85 metres, possibly the man of the match to Chavez in the line-out similarly. Final score, Smithy said here, 45-26 to Newcastle Falcons. Second weekend on the road that the Tigers have been absolutely thrashed. A performance I don't think anybody saw coming. Newcastle scoring 6 tries throughout that game. Always looking in control of it against the Leicester Tigers side. We have to say were Premiership champions last season. Came with a 6-2 split. A lot of forwards, a lot of power. Just the best performance, Colin. I'm absolutely breathless, to be quite honest. I have seen from Newcastle Falcons for many, many a season. Tries coming at regular intervals and just finding that space on the edge. Smithy wants to come in here because he's really excited as well.
I know you want to go to Sunderland game. That moves Newcastle up to 7th in the table.
7th in the table, not deserved.
This evening, Leicester Tigers.